It is 6:01 from the 104.5 The Zone studios. Good morning. I'm Justin Hawkins. The San Francisco 49ers locked up another core player yesterday with a big extension, agreeing to a 3-year, $63 million extension with All-Pro linebacker Fred Warner. The deal comes with more than $56 million in guaranteed and also makes Warner their highest-paid off-ball linebacker in NFL history. Speaking of extensions, the Philadelphia Eagles announced yesterday that they have agreed to a multi-year extension with 2025 Super Bowl winning head coach Nick Sirianni. Sirianni is in 4 seasons as a head coach, has a 54-23 record, including 4 playoff appearances, 2 Super Bowls, and of course, they were Super Bowl 59 champions back in February. Tonight, the conference finals begin in the NBA. Anthony Edwards and the Minnesota Timberwolves are in Oklahoma City to face Shai Gilgeous-Alexander-led Thunder for Game 1. Tip-off tonight is at 7:30 on ESPN. And in the NHL, the Carolina Hurricanes, they host the reigning Stanley Cup champs Florida Panthers in Raleigh for Game 1 tonight. Puck drop is at 7 p.m. on TNT. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, you've got to visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Ramon Will, 104.5 The Zone, kicking off your Tuesday morning. Welcome in. It's a beautiful morning in the Music City before all the severe weather comes into Middle Tennessee. 615-737-1045 is the number before we all get blown away this morning. He is Ramon Foster, the 11-year NFL veteran. Justin Hawkins behind the controls. My name is Will Bowling. We stream the show live on 104.5 The Zone TV, Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch. Good morning, Ramon Foster.
Good morning, Willie, man. What's going on?
Not much. How are you?
Not much, man. I'm good. I told you just a second ago, I felt like yesterday was the longest Monday ever. It felt, I don't know what it was. It was the breakup in my schedule. Like, I worked out and took a shower immediately after, so I'm not sure if that's why, but yesterday felt long, and maybe it's because we leave the house now, and there's light outside, and then you get home close to 8 o'clock at night, and there's light outside. It just felt...
The days feel longer.
I felt at the end of the day yesterday, my wife and I both said, it felt like tomorrow should be Wednesday.
Day and a half yesterday.
Yeah, a day and a half, man, is what I was feeling like yesterday. But in totality, it was pretty solid, though, man. Went to a baseball banquet yesterday.
Nice. Does that mean one season is ending?
One season is ending. No.
Another one's better because is that the high school season that just ended?
Season.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got to keep track of all
You know the vibes, don't you?
Yes, I do.
So this weekend of the youngest is done with travel now. We made a family decision that, listen to me, parents, well, you'll get to this point at some point. And
one day.
I say this with a lot of respect and just, caring about your future.
Okay.
Screw travel sports.
Okay.
No, I can't.
I was never a travel sports guy growing up.
No, nobody I knew
I wasn't
ever
athletic
was.
enough.
Yeah, well, you ain't got to be.
Perfect.
Trust me. There's so many... There's so many teams out here, but why I say I love the travel season, I'll be quite honest with you. I do enjoy it. I'm looking forward to it, too. I say that now and it ended up being long and hot, and I'm bit up by mosquitoes and everything. But we start that up this week, and I think RJ got like a Thursday, got a Friday. These are practices. Another practice on Sunday and a scrimmage on Monday or something like that. So,
Goodness.
But it's necessary, though. This is a big summer for the kid. That's the junior year window.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, he's going into his junior year, so I'm looking forward to seeing what it is. But hear me out. We made the decision on Miles. I never discussed this on the air. Last summer, 24, between visiting camps with RJ, which is a necessary thing in baseball. We visited a few of them. Bama, Vandy, Tennessee. We went to UVA. Did a lot of that last year.
Yep.
And also Miles' schedule. And I think the worst part of travel sports is the youth. Like under 13 is what I would say. It gets pricey.
Yeah, it does.
Pricey. Okay. And I asked him, I was like, what you ultimately want to do? It was like, I played football. I was like, yes,
that's your boy.
My brother. So let's
RJ's your boy too,
yeah,
but you know what I mean.
That's what I'm saying. Like, but it made, and you hate to do that because after we pulled him from travel, his pitching got better. His hitting got, I'm like, golly. So, but ultimately, Miles going to end up being a football player.
Yeah,
and
for
he said he going to hoop too. But like last summer, I'm almost embarrassed to say what we spent on travel for baseball.
I can't imagine.
I'll tell you off air.
Okay.
It was insane, but it's because you do those week tournaments, got to get verbos and stuff like that, and the travel and time. But I'll say this: we're getting to the point, and my wife is just like, we should have had another kid. I'm like, no, we shouldn't have. You didn't say that last summer and the summer before then. You saying that because RJ's about to be 17 this fall, and you see one bird leading the nest. That's what that is, man. Which I'm going to be real with you. I do too.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. It's a big time. And plus, can't you he could officially talk to college coaches July 1st. Is that right in baseball?
August 1st.
August 1st now.
August 1st now. Yeah, which is it's insane, man. But, I do get that emptiness, feel, especially now that he's driving away from the house. So it'll be me, Keisha, Miles at the crib, and it's quiet. And I'm just like, what is this? My eternal dad side is just like, tighten up, Dad. Tighten the heck up, okay?
Tighten up.
Yeah, seriously. But it's fun in this process. I'll be quite honest with you.
It's a very American thing having such expensive youth sports. It's not the case around the world.
It's not. It is absolutely not.
That's crazy.
One of my good friends, I talk about him all the time, Alejandro Villanueva.
Yeah.
He says that all the time. It's like, bro, and his son is now in baseball. So it's kind of funny that he's doing this. Just like, it's too expensive over here for you guys. It's just like, we used to just throw a soccer ball out and just kick. And that's kind of how it is. But if you don't do it and your kids are behind, if you do it, you better have a third job, which is why I got 5 of them, okay? I got 5 jobs out here, Will.
You sure do?
I do.
Hard-working man.
But you do, too.
Yeah.
How was the track meet yesterday?
It starts today.
It starts today. Okay.
Starts today. Prep was yesterday. And the next 3 days, I'll be down in the boroughs. So if you see me fighting all that traffic, just wave. Just let me pass on by.
I hope you don't have to fight the weather today.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that's going to go. Peyton was telling me about it yesterday, and sounds like it's a little serious. So we will see. I've had rain delayed track meets a lot down there. I've never had one totally just get moved, so let's hope that doesn't happen.
I hope not either, man. That the way they're talking about this one, have your head on the swivel. I heard Brent yesterday speaking about it. Have your head on the swivel for sure.
All right. Well, this morning, owners' meetings continuing in Minneapolis as NFL owners are voting on a number of topics. Adam Schefter this morning says the votes on the Packers' proposal to ban the tush push and the Lions' proposal to reseed playoff teams based on regular season record are not expected until Wednesday. However, there is one vote and one new rule that is expected to pass at NFL owners' meetings today. Adam Schefter says, per ESPN sources, a vote to allow NFL players to participate in flag football for the first time during the Summer Olympics in 2028 is expected to pass at today's league meeting in Minneapolis. Nothing is official yet, but as one source said about today's vote, Olympics should be easy. So there you go. The only news from the NFL and the owners' meetings so far is that that one guy that was super territorial about being an Olympian in U.S. flag football because he's like a flag football hero. Yeah, he will have to battle NFL players after all.
I can't wait to see what he's going to be like.
Tough morning for that guy.
He's the guy that I was thinking of more than anything because he's a flag football star is what he is, man. What I don't want is this, though. The turn on the Olympics was a couple years ago. No, last year. Was the Olympics last year? Last year. And
it was.
You turn the Olympics on, and then the 3-on-3 side of stuff, there's a bunch of I hate to say it like this, but backups in a sense. That was
like Jimmer Fredette.
Yeah, Jimmer Fredette.
And the U.S. didn't even win in men's.
No,
didn't win anything.
Which is crazy to think of. And I think the women's had a surprise upset, if I'm not mistaken, last summer too.
Yeah.
But if we're going to do it, let's go put our foot on their necks is the way I feel about this one, especially on the flag football side of things.
So Darryl Doucette, the flag football quarterback last year, who said he is better than Patrick Mahomes and the best fit for L.A. Olympic football. All right, buddy.
Dude.
Whatever you say.
Dude, I do hate when folks get like that, though. It's just like, bro, you never even made it past high school.
Self-awareness is a dying art in our culture these days.
It's so many times that people do that, though. Like, I'm better than him.
Yeah,
or
for sure.
Somebody that got you in high school one time. It's just like, bro, that was one play. And your career ended after you walked across the graduation stage, respectfully.
Or like Tyreek Hill saying he's faster than Noah Lyles.
I mean, that's silly, too.
It's the same thing.
That is absolutely silly, Will. Like, absolutely not. We're not playing the same game. There's an athlete in Texas. He's a high schooler. I think he's like a 3 or 4-star wide receiver, was racing a football player. No, he was a track player. He was a track runner.
Right.
And he's running against a 4-star football player. Really good athlete out of Texas, Will. smoked him.
It's different.
Out of the blocks.
Yeah, it's different.
Absolutely no chance.
Was that Tate Taylor, the guy that's run 9.92,
yeah.
I think, in Texas?
Yeah, it was him. But what's crazy is he's saying there's younger kids that run faster than him, so he's almost in a position where he's not as fast as he want to be.
There is a kid from Chattanooga who's run 10.29 this year as a freshman in high school.
As a freshman. What's the expectation for him by a sophomore, junior year?
Depends on how healthy. It depends on, again, like the thing about high school running is it depends on how much wind was at his back. Some of these guys, like, because sometimes those things don't get reported. Okay. That's the thing that it is a little tricky when Dan Brugler writes in the Beast of like, this guy has run 10.3 in the 100. And then I go look at like the time and it's like, yeah, he had a 20-mile-an-hour wind at his back. Of course he ran 10.3. That's a 10.6 guy. Like, so it's kind of hard to judge in high school.
Yeah.
It's not always linear, but I mean, if you're running 10.29 as a freshman, like if everything goes well, you don't get hurt, you stay healthy, and you have another good race that sets up well for you, you could be a scare in 10 seconds.
Expectations is to walk that 10.29 down to like a 10.
It's just that once you get down that low, it is so hard to get better.
Okay.
Because you're already so fast that the growth is not linear from, people that are running other stuff.
Okay. I didn't know. Because, I've seen guys turn like 4.6s their freshman year into like 4.4s.
Yeah, sure.
So that's what I was just wondering with lifting and abs and core and stuff like that.
Sure.
So, fascinating.
Coming up, Tennessee Athletics has a dilemma. Nike or Adidas and the impact of brands in the bag. That's next. Hey, it's Will Bowling. Are you looking to check some items off your home to-do list this summer? Or maybe you're looking to freshen up your home's look before hosting friends and family in the coming months. Well, available 24/7, 365, the Lee Company handyman professionals have you covered. From pressure washing your driveway or deck to drywall repairs, landscape lighting, painting, and more, Lee Company is all you need. Just go online, visit Lee Company online at leecompany.com to schedule your appointment today. Hey, if there's that area of the house that you've just totally neglected, you push it off to the side, you decided, let's worry about that for spring cleaning. Well, here to tell you, spring almost over here in Middle Tennessee. So make sure you're starting to check off those items on the to-do list before the summer months get here. Trust the folks at Lee Company. Give them a call at 615-567-1000 or head online to leecompany.com. That's Lee Company, all you need. Ramon Will, 104.5 The Zone is fueled by Scooters Coffee. Visit a locally owned location near you. Rivergate, Smyrna, Brentwood, White House, or Mount Juliet. Amazing people, amazing drinks, amazingly fast. Alongside Ramon Foster, I'm Will Bowling. So Tennessee has a dilemma on the apparel front. The Vols are in discussions with both Adidas and Nike as the current Nike deal expires in 2026. So Tennessee left Adidas in 2014 to sign with Nike, and the amended deal runs through 2026. Through the partnership, Tennessee is set to receive $1.2 million in base compensation in 2025, 2026, and $4.5 million in annual product allotment. The contract expires June 30th, 2026. In today's athletics world, getting a bag from an apparel company means a lot more than it used to, Ramon Foster. However, to recruits and to athletes, having a swoosh instead of three stripes also matters quite a bit. So let's go back to your days as an athlete and as a recruit. You committed and you played for a Tennessee school that was Adidas at the time. How significant was that in your personal recruiting process?
Excuse me. Going into recruiting didn't matter. To be quite honest, didn't know. You got to think too, where the social media side of things of which mattered more didn't resonate as far as recruiting went for me personally. I think as classes after myself and others were more aware of it, then it became a bigger issue. I heard more about it while at Tennessee and after I left Tennessee than I did going into it. Because, again, you got to think, like, when you win, nothing else matters. And coming into that era, that 03-04, they just won. I mean, they're recently off of national championships somewhat, SEC championship, a lot of guys being drafted. So the brand didn't matter as much then. When you got on campus and you realized the guys that had played in those cleats, walked around in those shoes, didn't have much variety literally when it came down to literally didn't have much variety as it came down to style. Then it switched up a little bit. I will say I do think Nike made cooler apparel. The idea of having Nike cleats on your feet just meant a whole lot different than what Adidas was. What Adidas was to me going into Tennessee, to be quite honest with you, was more apparel. They didn't have the technology I thought that Nike had. With what I knew about it back then, I felt like the cleats for the linemen were clunky. I thought they hurt your feet more. I had more blisters with Adidas. And then when you got the shoes to walk around the campus with, those were, I mean, for the guys that had wider feet, it felt like your feet were tight in the shoe box. And the coolest part that they had, to be quite honest with you, was those ribbed three-stripe flip-flops, the black ones with you legendary. Set your feet in,
for sure,
and then it molds to your feet. By far the coolest thing that you could have got from them. But as far as the orange color, the idea that it was cool,
sure, it
wasn't.
So I thought Brent Hubbs dropped an interesting nugget with you guys on Friday, making the point that Tennessee does its own designs now for uniforms. I realized that a little bit because I know Evan Ford is a guy that works for the university athletic department and does a great job. I follow him on Twitter, and he's the one that has designed a lot of those smoky gray jerseys and the football stuff.
Gotcha.
So even under Nike, Tennessee has had the design rights, the design ability, so to speak. So one positive of wherever Tennessee goes next is there does feel like an expectation that Tennessee is going to design its own uniforms and make sure the color orange is done properly. Yeah. And I know that was a big complaint for a lot of people when Tennessee was with Adidas in the past, was the orange on the uniforms did not match the orange on the helmets.
Yeah, that I do remember that being a thing. Somebody brings up a point, Will, too, as far as the Adidas cleat for linemen. I used to have on the ball of my foot, on the inside of where my big toe is, and almost every lineman dealt with that. That cleat spot right there pushed up often. I've actually had that come through a shoe.
Goodness
in practice. You know what I'm saying? So it was that part of it, too, on top of, the colors of it. They missed the mark the first time around, if I can be completely honest with them. Yeah, Adidas did. They also didn't supply many gloves as far as the linemen go. It was just a lot of, looking back at what you were supplied with. I think, as far as the management side of, the equipment managers, I think whenever Adidas call, they pick up, and they got great customer service, is what I've always heard. Their reps are a whole lot better than Nike's. And that matters to those guys. They got to listen to complaining athletes. Hey, I need. Hey, I want.
Right.
They can just call Adidas. And Adidas always is going to answer. Adidas always going to send more than what you need. So for the people, honestly, they have to manage that stuff, that equipment, that merchandise. It hits a little bit different with them, is what I've always been told.
So the Knoxville News Sentinel puts out there that Tennessee and Nike started talks to extend the deal late last year, late 2024. But the exclusive negotiating window closed on March 30th, meaning the Vols are able to explore other options. Brent Hubbs made the point with us here on the show on Friday when you were with Zach and Stoney that Nike has a period where they can match anything that Tennessee gets from Adidas. So Brent Hubbs said that he expects this to be done by the 1st of July. Nike has the last say according to the contract. 15 days, counter another apparel company's offer. Brent Hubbs and VolQuest reporting they would expect a new deal with one of the two companies will be reached sometime in the next 6 weeks. So the money part of this. In the House settlement, where schools will be able to directly share revenue with athletes in House versus NCAA, the cap for that is set at $20.5 million for the first year. And that would increase by 4% each year as a part of the 10-year settlement. Universities are actively looking for ways to pay for now an additional expense, and a big one, paying athletes. A bigger piece of the pie from your apparel company is one way to get additional revenue. So the question I'll ask Ramon is it worth it? This has been a big conversation for Tennessee fans. I don't think this is just a Tennessee thing because, again, like we often say, if it's not a Tennessee, if it's not just a Tennessee problem right now, it's going to be a problem for your school in years to come as well. Is it worth taking the hit for your fan base and maybe some of your athletes to get more money and feel like you've got more of the pie to share? I know it's capped at $20.5 million, but you've got more NIL dollars potentially with Adidas, the way Texas Tech does. Is it worth it to have additional resources, but also take a little bit of a hit?
No, it's not.
I'm a little surprised to hear you say that.
It's no. To make the switch to Adidas because of more money, it's not. So it's two-sided for me completely, Will. As a former player that understands what Nike versus Adidas means, for a guy that dealt with Adidas too and heard it personally, from other schools, man, that trash Adidas y'all got on, like, it was that, and it wasn't much of an argument to push back on what Adidas, the brand, is, especially in football. In track, different conversation. Basketball, different conversation.
Track is terrible for Adidas. I'm not going to fight you on that one.
Oh, my bad, broski. Soccer. It's great
soccer, it's great.
Great
soccer and baseball is pretty good for you.
And I think they want to make their mark, and they want a big brand, and they got a few. I'm just looking real quick, the sidebar. They got Arizona State, Washington, Georgia Tech, Indiana. I think the biggest schools that they have is what? Louisville, Miami.
Texas A&M is the big one. So A&M, they signed an agreement with in 2022 worth $47 million over 5 years. Yeah. $3 million per year in base compensation. Again, Tennessee, in its deal with Nike, is getting done with a deal that paid the school $7.5 million from 2014 to 2023.
The biggest, another big issue with Adidas versus what Nike got going on is this. There is no real accessible website to where you can get their stuff or place in the mall consistently that you can go in and say, yeah, let's go to the Adidas store.
Not as much of a storefront.
Not much of a storefront. Yep. Now, what they will do, Will, is make it very appealing for a guy like Danny White. That's where, to me, if we believe in all things that he's been asking, because one thing he's been as an AD is one hell of a fundraiser. He's been a moneymaker.
He is, totally.
A driver of all things that you need to pour in so that we can help build his organization up even more. And that word, to me, is not problematic, but that's why I think the roadblock is. Because as somebody that's got to manage and you pay him to manage, that's a hard decision to turn down. If we're talking about, was it 20+ million from Adidas versus 12 from Nike?
And 12 is, that's a lot more than what you're getting now.
Yeah.
Either way, Tennessee's getting a big bump up. Tennessee's getting like $1 million a year stuff of money.
to me, so I looked up some other schools or people that Adidas is doing business with. If everything's above board as it pertains to Nike's Adidas, Adidas, Under Armour, whoever else, right? Puma, for that matter. What's going to have to happen is what they do to NFL leagues. I mean, to professional leagues. Like, I think, what was it, Haley Van Lith had an Adidas contract while she was at LSU.
Yeah.
Flajay Johnson had a Puma one. And if they want to, like, really make hay in the sports world, they can't go at the school. They got to go at the athletes.
Sure.
The same way Under Armour did with Cam Ward, and the same way Adidas did with Travis Hunter, too. Like, that, you might have to do deals the way athletes get them. I was a Nike athlete.
I mean, Cooper Flagg was a New Balance athlete this past year at Duke, but he couldn't wear them in games because he had to be a Nike guy.
Sell the athlete.
Right.
Haley Van Lith did it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's an avenue for them. I just don't see them because there are repercussions from making that switch means a lot.
Right.
I think you cancel out.
It does.
I know you cancel out athletes, Will.
So, again, Tennessee getting $1.2 million in base compensation in next school year, $4.5 million in annual product allotment. Texas Tech's new deal with Adidas, 10 years, that includes $50 million in total product allotment. It's a lot of money.
Oh, that's a ton of bread.
It is. And Patrick Mahomes, who has an endorsement deal with Adidas, he's Adidas's face of football stuff, partnered with Texas Tech on an NIL initiative. 6 athletes signed with Team Mahomes as a part of the NIL deals. Like, to me, Tennessee's going to get more stuff and product than it used to if it goes back to Adidas.
And money.
And a lot more money. And to me, it's not as big of a deal if you're bringing NIL dollars and Adidas contracts with athletes that, is the difference between Nike and Adidas really anything in terms of your recruiting class? Because you can make the argument, all right, with less money, I might be able to lure more kids here who are Nike people, because I know for a fact, this is a big debate on social media. There are people who are high school kids. These are high school kids, we have to remember, who will not look at a school because they're not a Nike school. I had friends in high school. I'm talking about a non-revenue sport. Like, no, Adidas schools are out. I'm not running Adidas stuff. I'm running a Nike stuff.
Yeah.
Like that happens.
I got a partner of mine, Will, that has this son that's really good at hoops.
Uh-huh.
I'm talking about really good.
Yeah.
And they got into that world because in basketball they can do it early, by the 8th grade, 9th grade year.
Yeah.
Got invited to a Nike meeting.
Yeah.
In the 9th grade. Will. And the conversation, without going deep into it, was Dave, to your point, have set up pathways in Utah, in Nevada, and Tennessee, and Georgia, and New Jersey for guys that they have deemed to be top-tier hoopers.
Right.
That are going to sign with Nike whenever they get their 1 year done.
They're not going to sign with Adidas.
They're not going to sign with Adidas.
No.
Like,
they're going to go to Reebok or Puma or Under Armour at this point. I mean,
like, and
Adidas in basketball is not great.
But Adidas is doing the same thing, and so is Under Armour too. But like, what I'm getting at is like these, to your point, especially on the Rick Barnes side of things on basketball. Yeah. Like, for a guy like him that's going after the top athlete, what do you expect most time the school? I mean, the brand that they're going to go with is usually Nike.
Always.
It's usually Nike, and that's because Nike identifies early. They start sending them merchandise early. They start having conversations way early because they treat it, I hate to put it like this, but they almost treat it like South American baseball. If they identify you, you're going in the farm program. And that's where it can hurt on the basketball front, potentially baseball too, for that matter.
So it's interesting. Like, Tennessee has a choice to make. Is it worth the additional NIL dollars you could get to go sign someone to be an Adidas athlete for your school, who's getting paid to be an Adidas athlete for your school? Or do you gamble on not taking that extra money and just the branding of Nike making up that gap to where you're still going to get the same level of athlete? They're just not going to be getting paid directly by your apparel partner and brand. They just want to, it's a tiebreaker. That's what I think this is. I think for a lot of athletes, stuff like this can be a tiebreaker if all things are equal.
It can be.
Of like, well, I'd prefer the apparel there and I prefer the stuff there. And I remember myself as a 17-year-old being recruited, and in this process, that was the thing I was most excited about, was the gear. And there are so many high schoolers, and trust me, all of them are more athletic than I was. I'm not putting myself in the same boat as a even a 2-star football player. Do not hear me try to make this the same thing, but
right.
I know what my peers were like, and I was not in college all that long ago, and I was there for the first year of the Nike deal.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I went on my visits to Tennessee, and all those athletes immediately like, oh, you guys are lucky. You guys are coming in with Nike next year.
No.
And when I got there, we didn't get a lot of stuff because at the beginning of your contract with an apparel company, at least in that deal, Nike kind of treated Tennessee like a mid-major for our first 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like we had to work our way up into the contract to get a whole lot of stuff. And then like 2 or 3 years in, when I was leaving the team and I was still in school, like they would get triple the gear, double the gear, like a ton more things. So it matters. I promise you it matters, is the whole point of this conversation. And schools have a decision to make. Do I want the bag to supplement this new expense, or do I want branding and I want my stuff in storefronts more around the country with a swoosh on it that looks and feels better?
I think the second part is most important. I'll be completely honest.
I tend to think they're going to go back to Nike. I would be surprised but not shocked if they went to Adidas. But to me, it feels like the branding and the superiority of what Nike is matters to Tennessee.
I couldn't find the source to back it up, but I saw a conversation on Twitter that said Adidas did the exact same thing to LSU. I can neither confirm that or deny it, but what I'm saying is Adidas have to make these pitches. I didn't see anything as far as like, hey, Adidas is in conversation with LSU, but they said LSU took less to go back to Nike, and that's just how it's going to go. And just the optics of it, though, too, Will, what one allows versus the other is this.
Sure.
Adidas will allow you to spat. They'll allow you to cover their logo up. Under Armour do the exact same thing. Nike, absolutely not. You cannot spat with Nike the way you want to. Yeah. Like the check has to be uncovered, and the bottom of the shoe also matters too. You can't cover up the logo on the bottom of the shoe too. They have certain parameters because it's all about branding for them. But Adidas, you can do whatever you want to with them.
Let's go to Richard, 615-737-1045. What's up, Richard?
Hey, good morning. How you guys doing?
Good morning.
Good. So I was wondering, is the Jumpman or the Jordan brand any part of the Nike negotiations or just the swoosh?
Just the swoosh. Jumpman not a part of it for Tennessee.
And Jumpman gives you way less than Nike does.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Richard.
This is the initial dollars is what we're talking about.
Right.
Is because the brand is what the brand is the optics. Florida has it. I never forget when they got it, but Florida also doesn't get as much gear as you want them to get. And then I know for a fact Jordan doesn't pay the money that Nike or Adidas does. But you want to be with Jordan.
It's the brand.
It's the brand.
For sure. The thing with Jordan, like I'm not as big of I understand the Jordan brand and the design of it.
Yeah.
Like I like Jordan shoes. Don't get me wrong. Like the Jordan 1 cleats and the Jordan 1 everything that have come back since 2020. Big fan of that. But I don't know. There's something about having a guy who played basketball at North Carolina on your jerseys. Am I overreacting to that? I never for football.
Yeah, I think you overreact.
I think it's cool for North Carolina because Michael Jordan went there.
Houston have them too, don't they? I think Houston is a Jordan school.
I just never it feels kind of like
you want it.
You're taking the brand of a school that's right down the road. That like if I was North Carolina, I would use that in recruiting
easily. I know Florida uses it in recruiting. I know Michigan uses it in recruiting.
But like North Carolina could use that against Florida to be like, well, why would you go there? You just come here where the guy on your jersey actually played.
I don't think it matters to them.
No, it does. I know it does.
I know where you're getting at, but
I'm not saying it does.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just always, I've always preferred the Nike stuff because it's like, it's just kind of like a.
I mean, Jordan himself makes a deal out of it. Whenever his players from North Carolina are wearing Kobe's or LeBron's, like he doesn't like that. I do know that is a thing. Like on the basketball side, you may be able to get them. You might be able to jab back at them. I agree with that.
It's like when Kobe be like, "You're wearing my shoe against me."
Yeah.
Like if I was North Carolina, I'd be like, "Really? You're wearing our jersey against us?" Yeah. Like this guy wouldn't be anything if it wasn't for UNC. I don't know. I'm getting way too in the weeds of that.
No, but it matters though. Those are the things that happen in recruiting though. That's the part of it. To your point, that it can be used against like Duke players. Right? Like,
for sure.
Them wearing Jordans. I would guarantee that's a no-go.
And at the end of the day, like what I want and what the fan and what you, the fan, wants needs to be secondary to what 16 through 18-year-olds want. That is what's important in all of this. Thankfully, I think what 16 through 18-year-olds want is Nike, and that's what fans want is Nike because the apparel for fans that fans get far superior with Nike than Adidas. It's not even. It's not even close.
I got a couple of Adidas pieces left.
Ooh,
But I purged.
Mine is gone.
Purged.
I also don't fit in any of it anymore because I look a lot different than I used to. But
that's the part too. Their fit is a little bit different. Like Nike
It
varies
is.
too, but Adidas clothes are. I felt a little bit more like Italian, European than it is American made. To be quite honest,
I like a lot of my Adidas soccer stuff. But again, that's soccer stuff.
Soccer.
We're not talking about
a
soccer.
little bit different. If you are just for instance, real quick, George McIntyre.
Yeah.
And there's an ability that Adidas wants to negotiate you and make you an athlete. You signing that NIL with them?
Depends on what Nike's offer is.
Well, if Nike ain't offering.
Then yeah.
Okay.
Sure. If I'm getting paid.
Yeah, just extra.
They pay good money.
Because if they go and sign individual players, I think there's a market there.
Absolutely. 615-737-1045. Open for your phone calls on the Tennessee Nike dilemma. A big story that'll continue to develop here. And again, Brent Hubbs on Friday says that he expects it done by beginning of July at the latest. So I think certainly something we'll hear more about in the next few weeks. Coming up, Brian Callahan meets with the media later today. We'll carry that live at 9:30 this morning. What do you want to hear from him? What do you want to know about Titans OTAs at the moment? We'll talk about that next.
Is your concrete in need of repair? Maybe your sidewalk is shifting, your driveway is cracked and sinking also, or maybe your porch steps have moved. Shifting concrete, it can create a dangerous situation, trip hazard around your home. Also, it can cause you can get in trouble with your insurance if somebody trips and falls on your property. So it's one of those things that you got to get checked out, all right? Plus, it's just a big eyesore. Ramon Will, whatever's going on with your concrete, call United Structural Systems. Ask them about their polyurethane foam injections. You've heard about USS for a long time. It's the same company that's provided superior foundation repair and waterproofing to Middle Tennessee since 1994. Well, they can also fix your sunken and settling concrete. USS uses polyurethane foam injections to lift and repair your sinking concrete in a matter of minutes. Lifted concrete can be walked on immediately or even driven on after 30 minutes. So don't go through the long, expensive process of ripping out and replacing concrete. No, reach out to the company that I trust, man. Go to USSTN.com. That's USSTN.com. Or call them at 615-488-7855. United Structural Systems.
Ramon and Will at 104.5 The Zone, fueled by Scooters Coffee, locally owned all around you here in Middle Tennessee. Rivergate, Smyrna, Brentwood, White House, or Mount Juliet. Amazing people, amazing drinks, amazingly fast. 615-737-1045. Stay tuned in hour 4 this morning. Brian Callahan will meet with the media. We will carry that live for you at 9:30 at the end of the program. Ramon Foster, what do you want to hear from the head coach this morning?
The pathway on the quarterbacks and how he's gonna develop and set up this competition. I think that's probably most important. And from there, to be quite honest with you, how they piece together the skill group around them, how they're gonna facilitate that competition too, with the young rookies and the veterans that you brought in, on top of the incorporation of making, like, how will you appease to Calvin Ridley? Like, I think those are some very important things that need to be talked about moving forward. And just his pathway to being a total coach this year. And I say that because he mentioned the idea that he needs to, go more on the defensive side of stuff, figure out what they want and stuff. So those are the questions that I would ask on a day like today. Coach, what steps have you made to prepare yourself to be a more defensive-minded coach to relate to those guys?
How challenging is it to divide reps between 4 quarterbacks in the offseason?
Very. That was my point on getting 4.
Yeah.
I won't say it's challenging. It's a matter of how they treat 1 and 2.
It's unique.
It's unique.
Yeah.
And it's, the other part is it's a matter of how they figure out is there going to be a players coach quarterback, or is everybody in a position to where they're competing for a job? I do think some guys, like Charlie Batch for the longest, there was no competition with Charlie Batch backing up.
Long-time QB2 in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, there was no competition whatsoever for a guy like Charlie Batch at all. You just understood Charlie's one. He understands he know how to communicate with Ben. If you need him in a pinch, he's good to go. But when we're talking about guys like Brandon Allen and Tim Boyle, like, which one are you saying you're my player's coach to relate everything to Cam? Is it Brandon Allen? Because if it's Brandon Allen, he probably won't get that many reps.
Sure.
So it's hard for me to see if they got a 12-play set, you're going 3-3-3-3. I just can't see that.
Well, and Cam Ward needs the majority of the reps. Even if he's not with the ones, like if you've got 12 reps to give out, it's almost like you're giving 6-3-3.
Yeah, it has to be that way.
It was 6 between Cam and Levis, and then 3 for, Brandon Allen and 3 for Tim Boyle.
In a 12-play set, 15-play set, the starters will usually get 9 plays. We go 8 or 9. We go 5, or we'll go 4 and then 5. Like, that's the way it works, because the ultimate goal is to prepare your starters for the game with the idea that backups get reps too. And that's what, like, to me, with what Levis needs, and they've said that, yes, he's a part of this competition. What Cam wants, and we understand that he's probably going to be the day one starter.
Right.
Has to be at this point. What are you doing with those 2 veterans?
It's interesting, and it's not even just like a young quarterback caveat. The Titans aren't just coming into this saying, let's have some extra QB help. That way Cam can be mentored by more guys. This is something that Mike Borgonzi of the Chiefs did even when Patrick Mahomes has been an established quarterback. They've kept 4. It is the way that they operate. I'd be really curious to learn why specifically that is, beyond just like, that's just what we believe. Okay, well, why do you believe it? It's not something that overly concerns me. Like, I don't think it's a problem. I just think it's an answer that we don't have to a question that still lingers for me. Like, what is the value in, is there value in standing off to the side and watching and processing more info as a bystander, as a spectator at practice, versus always having to do it? Like, what is that balance between, hey, I can learn things by watching other guys work in different ways, versus actually doing it? I don't have the answer to that.
And so I think that's a fair point to be made, though, too, Will, because here's the other part of, like, sitting and watching, trying to critique players in real time, is the amount of reps that how you have to split them up still has to set the backup up to be ready if your starter gets hurt. And that's why I think it's a little watered down if you got 4 quarterbacks trying to split reps, too. Now, if you're telling me Tim Boyle is in a position, Will, to where he's going to make this roster, or he's a practice squad quarterback, and you just need real-time correction because you got to wander off onto another field as a head coach in Brian Callahan. Well, then the other questions I have for you, do you mean to tell me you still got to use Bo Hardegree and Coach Holtz too. Like, that's a lot of eyes on one player to correct.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't get it, but this is their process. I love to know, Will, to your point, if I was in there asking that question, how are you going to split these reps up? And then don't give me the, hey, well, whoever earns them. How can you earn something this time of the year? Like, as far as, you winning a job.
You're hardly really even playing against a defense the time of year.
How do you see the order, too? I see it as Cam. I see it as Levis. I see it as Anderson, and then I see it as Tim Boyle.
Allen.
Allen. Yeah, Allen.
Yeah, it says about right.
Is that how you see it?
So Cam Ward deserves opportunities to play with ones starting now.
Yes. He has to. Why are we going to play? I mean, I get the idea of the optics. Don't hand him. Like, he's going to earn the job. And especially you got to know who you're dealing with, too. Cam Ward doesn't seem like, hey, I grab my ball and you guys got to follow me and I'll tell you what to do. No, I think he understands the role that he's in of having to appease to the veterans out there. But when you look at the way it's set up, Cam has to have the lion's share of this with Will Levis behind him.
I agree. It just feels like anything you're giving Will Levis with starters is a charade. Will Levis is not the starting quarterback of the Tennessee Titans anymore. And they know a lot more about their process and their plan than I do, so I'm not going to act like I have a better idea of how they should divide all this up and how they're going to operate moving forward, and they want Cam to earn things. But, like, Will Levis is not going to be the week one starter. So it's not going to happen.
So you're saying this shouldn't roll the ball out and Will's going with the ones?
No, Cam Ward needs all the time he can get throwing to Calvin Ridley, throwing to Tyler Lockett, throwing to Elikiah Manor and Chimere DK, and not just Gunnar Helm, but Jake Okonkwo and Josh Wiley. Barring health of any of those things, because a lot of times those guys get a lot of days and get a lot of rest days, and often have little nagging things that they don't want to push, but. It does feel like a little bit of a charade with Levis, and I respect for them for what they're doing, but Cam Ward is the starting quarterback of the Tennessee Titans.
There's no room for sympathy in professional sports to me.
No.
Like, you don't get to be the walk-on guy to get some scholarship later in this league. But if we're judging the last three guys that are quarterbacks on this roster after Cam, who has the most talent and, I guess, optimism to be able to do something for you? That's the
highest upside is still Will Levis.
To help you win games, too?
Not this team. Might be able to help another team win games in exchange for draft compensation.
And that's kind of where I'm at. Yeah. Like, if you're going to do it, like, pour into the veterans more than you are the guy that you're potentially going to trade off in the middle of training camp.
Right.
Especially if we're wasting time with the rookie quarterback, too.
615-737-1045 is our number as we roll into hour two coming up next. Late last night, there was a groundbreaking proposal from Power Conference commissioners pertaining to a law that was passed very quietly here in the state of Tennessee that could put Tennessee and Vanderbilt in the crosshairs of being expelled from the SEC. And yes, I am being serious. That's next.
We love being part of the moments that matter, which is why we're announcing employee pricing for everyone. You pay what we pay. Employee pricing at Two Rivers Ford. Locally owned, American made.
Good people, they listen to me. Their motto is this, man: dream, design, build. And after you build it, you drive like I do, okay? Because I've used Brian Motorsports numerous times, man. So if you're ready to elevate your vehicle, Brian Motorsports specializes in transforming rides with the statement-making custom wheels, immersive audio experiences, and head-turning style through custom tints and wraps. Whether you are seeking subtle enhancements like I have on my truck right now, or a complete custom build, other truck that I had, they deliver cutting-edge style and performance for all vehicles, including the most exclusive and exotic cars. If you're a Jeep owner that wants the ultimate off-road performance, well, guess what? Brian's Motorsports is undisputed leader in Jeep customization. Brian's Motorsports can give an aggressive off-road appearance and performance that has made Brian's Motorsports an undisputed leader of off-road upgrades. Most of the vehicles you see around the city probably got the Brian Motorsport tag on it, the BMS. You guys know the brand, man. You've seen them. It's trusted. It's tried and true, man. One of the best companies around as it comes to customization. If I got a vehicle, I'm sending it to Brian's Motorsports. Do like I do, man, where they believe in dream, design, and build. You can visit their website at briansmotorsport.com or simply visit his Instagram at Brian Motorsports.
It is 7 a.m. from the 104.5 The Zone studios. Good morning. I'm Justin Hawkins. The San Francisco 49ers locked up another core player with a big extension yesterday, agreeing to a 3-year, $63 million extension with All-Pro linebacker Fred Warner. The deal comes with more than $56 million in guarantees and also makes Warner the highest paid off-ball linebacker in NFL history. Speaking of extensions, the Philadelphia Eagles announced yesterday that they have agreed to a multi-year extension with 2025 Super Bowl winning head coach Nick Sirianni. Sirianni, in 4 seasons as head coach, has a 54-23 record and has also made 4 playoff appearances, 2 Super Bowls, and of course was Super Bowl 59 champions back in February. Tonight, the conference finals begin. In the NBA, Anthony Edwards and the Minnesota Timberwolves are in Oklahoma City to face Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and the Thunder for Game 1. Tip-off tonight is at 7:30 p.m. on ESPN. And in the NHL, the Carolina Hurricanes, they host the reigning Stanley Cup champs, Florida Panthers, in Raleigh for Game 1 tonight. Puck drop is at 7 p.m. on TNT. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, you got to visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Ramon Will, the 104.5 The Zone into hour number 2. Good morning. Hope you're enjoying your Tuesday morning so far today. 615-737-1045 is our number. If you want to jump in, we stream the show live at 104.5 The Zone TV, Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch. With the 11-year NFL veteran Ramon Foster, I'm Will Bowling. Justin Hawkins, our producer. Groundbreaking stuff from Power Conference commissioners last night. I was about to go to bed, and then I read at yahoosports.com that Ross Dellinger has this from big-time people in college football, college athletics. Officials from the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, and ACC are circulating a draft of a groundbreaking and first-of-its-kind document intended to prevent universities from using their state laws to violate new enforcement rules and, in a wholly stunning concept, Dellinger writes, require schools to waive their right to pursue legal challenges against the new enforcement entity, College Sports Commission, essentially saying your rules and your courts, state by state, no longer matter. You either sign this contract to say that our rules circumvent state and federal law, or you can't be a part of power conferences anymore. That's the consequence that is groundbreaking, Ramon. Not signing the agreement means a school risks the loss of conference membership and participation against other power league programs. You have to sign it, says one athletic director who has seen the document, or we don't play you. Interesting stuff. What was your initial reaction to this?
My initial reaction was okay, again, the NCAA is trying to do something, but to take control again. But seeing this one, Will, after reading it, I was just like, okay, this makes sense to me. This takes a lot of the mom and pop businesses out of college sports is what they're trying to do at this point. It's the first step to me outside of the NCAA, because are they affiliating themselves with the NCAA? What is it? The
College Sports Commission.
Yeah, CSC is what they're referring to in the article, man. They're trying to create the business model that these schools should be operating under. And I do think that's the first step in trying to get control of what NIL is, but also this, removing the bad apples from doing deals with these athletes, because more times than not, heck, some of the professional players don't understand how to do business the way they should, especially with people that are trying to scam you. That's the thing about a scammer, man. They're good at taking your money. I was telling you, okay, so this would protect, a couple of years ago, the Florida defensive lineman, Gervonta Dexter. This would remove companies like that. And I'm looking it up right now. It was a company called Big Lead Advance Fund that he did an NIL deal with, man. And in that deal, it says Dexter pledged, listen to this dummy deal, man. He pledged 15% of his pre-tax NFL earnings for guess how long, Will? 25 years.
Goodness sakes.
25 years. Wow. And also there will be for a one-time payment that he received from them. He got from them $436,000, $485 is what he got from them. But they're supposed to earn 15% of his money over the next 25 years. that removes these types of people from doing business in this. So, yeah, I somewhat side with this, although the state of Tennessee went in a different direction this past week with how they signed a House settlement here in Tennessee. So we're going to get to that.
Yep, Tennessee Senate Bill 536 paves the way for state schools. That's Tennessee, Vanderbilt, Memphis, etc. Tennessee schools and their affiliated NIL collectives to break House settlement-related rules and prevents college sports' new enforcement entity from penalizing those schools, essentially saying that whatever the House settlement looks like cannot circumvent what the state says. So the state of Tennessee got out way ahead of this. They did it pretty quietly to say, nope, whatever new rules you guys put out, we have the authority. Our courts are the ones that get to decide what you can and can't do. So Tennessee AD Danny White talked to Andy Staples about this yesterday, saying it gives us protections from the legal and structural uncertainties of college sports. Danny White says Tennessee has every intention to follow whatever rules we all decide on in this new structure. We haven't decided what that looks like yet or the new enforcement arm or how it fits with the NCAA. Tennessee's law has a provision that it can be superseded by a federal law that governs athlete compensation. So the way I can make this as simple as possible is the NCAA and this new enforcement entity is asking schools to break federal law and follow their laws. Mm-hmm. That's what they're asking.
I mean, if they're governing themselves and nobody else is going to step into it, the best way to do it is there's power in numbers. It's basically what they're saying.
It's a bold strategy.
It is. It is a very bold strategy, but the fact that nobody has stepped in from the NCAA.
This is them trying to step in.
I know, but finally, somebody's finally making something happen. I actually agree with this more than I thought I would after reading it.
With what? Which side?
With the CSC side of things.
The NCAA and said, hey, just follow our rules, not federal rules.
Federal rules. Because when you look at what each state is going to want to do and how they're going to compete against one another, and then we're speaking about right now, A.J. DeBasta, I think that's his name.
DeBansa, yeah. DeBansa. Committed to BYU in basketball.
In Utah. Imagine what Utah can do with the bread that they have over there. If you follow the governing laws of having everything be above board. My thing is this, it almost feels like there's a board that you pretty much have to send in contracts to show, are they valid or are they not? And that's where you don't have a situation, if it's binded by law, that a guy like Nico Iamaleava can leave in the spring.
Right.
Because if it's governed by them, then the contract had to be held up. Now, the next step would be, well, what are you doing about the portal that allow these businesses to operate too?
It's really interesting because players have not collectively bargained for any of this. And that's where it gets tricky. And Andy Staples writes this at On3.com yesterday, makes a good point. The Cowboys can't make a side deal with Dak Prescott to increase his pay without risking severe penalties from the NFL. The NFL has rules that circumvent what a court says a player can or can't make. But that's because the players, to the NFL Players Association, agreed to those rules. College players have not unionized and agreed to any standard practices within any of this. And that is where courts are now still going to side, I think, with players and with athletic directors that are going to fight this to say, the NCAA does not have the authority to just enforce sweeping things that they want to do without you collectively bargaining and agreeing on your end that you also agree to those practices, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So the new rules to college have not been bargained with current athletes, Andy Staples writes. The schools don't have an antitrust exemption, despite years and millions of dollars spent lobbying the U.S. Congress for one. So any cap that the schools attempt to unilaterally impose on players could be nuked by courts. I don't think this is going to work. I think it's what the NCAA and the College Sports Commission wants to be able to say, our rules are the ones that matter. If you play by our rules, you get to play college sports. If not, Tennessee, Vanderbilt, you're out of the SEC. Good luck finding a court, and good luck fighting the Tennessee Attorney General who's already beaten you in court that is going to rule on your side that you have the authority to do that.
The idea of this is what it should have started 10 years ago, though.
Yeah, right.
That's
right. Like, this is what the step that you take before Pandora's box gets open and before you let the cat out of the bag. before you ever do NIL or ever do pay for play things. I completely agree with you. Well, it's too late now.
It's too late now. I like the idea.
Precedent has been set.
I actually love the idea, Will, but the fact that they've lost so much, the fact that, teams are operating the way they want to. Now, I do agree. Removing these mom and pop NIL deal places, right? Removing the loans that they're giving guys. The structure. I want to say put in the pay structure, Will, but I get it. It's open market right now. 10 years ago is where this should have been laid down.
That's a great point.
And that's what sucks about it, because the idea is amazing to me.
Yeah, I agree.
I do think the idea is amazing.
It makes sense. Andy Staples' final paragraph, I think, is a strong one at on3.com about this last night in his column where he talked with Danny White. It says, the conferences now seem to think that threatening schools with expulsion will convince the schools to resume violating federal law. The cartel that keeps losing antitrust cases is trying to avoid more antitrust cases by acting even more like a cartel. Either you follow our rules that go around federal law or you're out. Bold. Very bold. Yeah. I respect it, but that ain't going to work. It's not going to work.
Who finally spoke up? That's what I love to know.
Our conference commissioners.
I know, but this is by far one of the craziest situations to really try to backtrack it. Like, you're literally trying to put the toothpaste back in the tube.
It's posturing.
Yeah.
It's not something that's realistic. It's not something that's going to hold up in court.
Dog and pony show right
now. Like, how is a state or federal court going to hold up a law that completely circumvents their own authority? It's just not the way it works.
It's not going to work.
No.
The intentions were great on this one. It was. But the execution is flawed in so many different ways. The CBA is what's next.
It makes my head hurt.
Yeah, it does.
I'm so
stupid.
I'm so tired of having to deal with all the legalese stuff and all of the all of the different. The biggest winner of this are billable hours.
Yeah,
the biggest winners of this are paralegals and big time lawyers, because they're the ones that are laughing all the way to the bank. All the way to the bank.
How dumb can they be at this point? I'm legitimately, Will, like, that to me is by far one of the silliest just proposals when you look at it in hindsight that they could have did now.
Yeah.
Like, you walk this down and you said, go do what you want to. It's just like letting your kid do whatever the hell they want to, and by the time they get 25, they're degenerate, and you feel like you're the worst parent ever. Yeah, you are. You are.
You can't impose the 8 p.m. curfew to have the car back home when they're 25 and out of the house anymore, can you?
Absolutely not.
You can do that when you're 16, not when you're 26.
Not when you're 26, 25 years old. For the life of me, again, they had us in about 03, 04, 05. $500. We'd probably be up to like maybe getting $2,500, maybe $5,000 a month right now. You know what I'm saying? But instead, teams are having to find ways to pay 18-year-olds. Like, who was it last week that we had on the was it Kirby? That said, I can't imagine having a freshman come on campus making more than a senior.
I saw David Pollack on his podcast this week recommended one of the changes they should make is have a freshman NIL cap.
I think so. You can do that. It's the NFL did with the rookie pay wage.
Is that going to hold up in court, though, too? And that's the problem, is that there has to be some kind of agreement.
Yeah.
Not the NCAA and College Sports Commission threatening expulsion if you don't just unilaterally agree to what they want to do. You got to have athletic directors that also can meet in the middle of this to say, here's what we want, as well as people actually with boots on the ground doing this every day.
Yeah.
And college coaches that are managing these things every day that can come to the middle and say, all right, these are the rules that are important to us as coaches and as university executives, not what's important to you wanting the most expensive TV deal.
I got a problem with Pollard, though. David Pollard.
What's that?
He said he wouldn't pay a lineman $2 million. Well, where in the hell would you pay him then, huh? Why it got to be us? If it was a linebacker, it'd be okay. And if it was a quarterback, you'd be okay with paying him $2 million.
Oh, because Miami paid a lineman reportedly $2 million to go to Miami and not Georgia.
I get it. I do ask this question, though, too. Is it because he didn't choose Georgia also? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the part of it where it becomes problematic for people that are talking heads. Like, don't let your emotions show like that.
Coming up, our SEC Spring Football Preview Series continues. Our good friend Brad Crawford of 247 Sports joins us talking South Carolina football after this.
Hey, good people, it's Ramon Will. Y'all know it's about to get warm, and that means insects are coming out. Those bites on your leg. Well, I'm here to tell you this, man. I was down with mosquitoes running in my backyard fun, and I found a solution. Let me tell you about Mosquito Max from All American Pest Control. All American's Mosquito Max is your one-stop proven solution for both mosquitoes and year-round pest prevention. Save money and say goodbye to the itchy bites like I did, man. All American's Mosquito Max include monthly mosquito misting, spider web removal, and perimeter pest control around your home. So make the change and finally enjoy your backyard. Don't let those pesky mosquitoes ruin your summer. I'm sure not, and I'm sure not going to either. So go to yuckbugs.com, that's yuckbugs.com, and make the switch to All American Pest Control today.
Spring practice in the rear view, spring portal finally, at least mostly behind us, means we can finally start previewing who is on what team and what's going on this fall in the Southeastern Conference. Our SEC Spring Football Series continues here this morning on Ramon and Will. We are fueled by Scooter's Coffee. Ramon Foster and Will Boulding with you. And we are pleased to be joined by one of our favorites, talking college football. He is Brad Crawford of 247 Sports, talking a little bit of South Carolina Gamecock football this morning. Brad, how are you? What's going on?
Fellas, good to hear from you guys this morning.
Yes, sir. You as well. Before we jump into South Carolina football, where they're at going into this summer and this fall, Brad, I just wanted to get your take quickly off the top about the report from Ross Dellinger last night that came out. Just what do you make of power conference commissioners trying to threaten expulsion to schools like Tennessee and Vanderbilt and saying follow our rules over state and federal laws late last night?
Yeah, sounds like too much power to the suits, right? That's never a good thing for college football, I think, in the long run. There's so many changes coming to this sport we love, fellas, as far as NIL and revenue. And now the presidents are sort of holding their ground and saying, look, this is what you have to do. These are the guidelines that we want you to follow. So I think it'll be very interesting in the next 2 to 5 seasons, maybe 3 years from now, just how these 4 power conferences look. And even if we have 4 power conferences by, say, 2028 or so.
Brad, is there a bigger winner in college sports today than lawyers, billable hours at this point? Like, it feels like those are the people that are profiting off of all this more than anybody.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, you've got like the Darren Heitners of the world in South Florida who are representing athletes for the NCAA. You've got, just legal representation for coaches now going to Congress and speaking on behalf of college football. To be honest, as someone who loves the X's and O's and actually what happens on the field, man, this off the field stuff is really difficult to follow for me.
I'm totally with you. Well, let's talk about on the field. South Carolina football, Brad, this upcoming season has got 2 of the best players in college football coming back. The quarterback, Lenore Sellers, the edge rusher, Dylan Stewart. A lot of key pieces are back, and when you have a quarterback that has Heisman-level potential, you always have a chance, regardless of how difficult the schedule is. How high is the ceiling for South Carolina football under Shane Beamer this upcoming season?
Yeah, I think the ceiling's probably 9 wins, maybe matching last year. Obviously, getting to the playoff would be a program first and exceed all expectations. But I just think if you look at what the Gamecocks lost, 3 second-round picks on defense. Rasul Faison, the top transfer running back from Utah State, who had 1,200 yards last year. It's late May, fellas, and he still has not been cleared by the NCAA. So right now, South Carolina does not have a starting running back, at least not eligible at this point. And then you look at, some of the replacements on the offensive line. So, while this roster is still talented and probably a mid to higher level SEC roster compared to other schools with Lenore Sellers and those kind of guys, there's still a ton of questions for me on both sides of the ball after heavy NFL draft losses.
Brad Crawford with us this morning. Brad, when you look at it for me, and correct me if I'm wrong, South Carolina seems to be very heavy in the draft defensively. And it almost seems like South Carolina Gamecocks, man, are a huge defensive team. With Dylan Stewart on this roster, is it, far-fetched that he could end up being the defensive player of the year in the SEC? Because one thing you guys have had is guy after guy get drafted over the last few years.
Yeah, I think he certainly could be that. I think what hurts Dylan Stewart this year, Ramon, is not having Kyle Kennard on the other side, the reigning SEC Defensive Player of the Year. And what's funny is he wasn't even one of those 3 second-round picks on defense. That's how stacked that Gamecock unit for Clayton White was last season. So while I think Dylan Stewart's probably a 9 or 10 sack guy, I do think he's going to face more double teams and chips and those sort of things this season for opposing offenses trying to eliminate the best player the Gamecocks have on that side of the football.
Speaking of Dylan Stewart, though, South Carolina did something I feel like most teams going to have to get ahead of, and that was go to the drawing board or to the negotiating table again with Dylan Stewart, man. How did that, or who jump-started that? Was it the NIL collective, or was it a coach like Shane Beamer that doesn't want the headache? Because, South Carolina has been pillaged by other schools in transfer portal this spring, guys leaving, potential starters. And, I mean, the fact that you have an NCAA case linking with your running back, who jumpstart that conversation for the Gamecocks?
Yeah, you have to give South Carolina's NIL collective a ton of credit on this. I mean, by Christmas of last season, before the 2024 season was even over, they had Lenora Sellers and Dylan Stewart essentially signed for 2025. And that's two of the best players, not only at the program, but in the SEC, two cornerstone guys you've got to build your entire roster around on both sides of the ball. So, you know, for a program like South Carolina, not historically known to have a, you know, top revenue producing / high NIL outside the top 10 probably. I mean, getting Sellers back, who had offers from two other SEC programs, I was told. And, of course, Dylan Stewart, he could have gone anywhere in college football he wanted to go to after last season's freshman year. You know, for the Gamecocks to get both those guys back and do it so quickly before the offseason began was super impressive. I mean, Shane Beamer, he's always been for paying players, giving them their fair share, and those two studs in Columbia certainly have made millions so far in their college careers.
Imagine that. You said made millions so far. Brad, they can get a lot of nice shoes with that type of stuff, man. But
a lot of stuff, yeah.
Speaking of shoes, we've had the conversation since last week about the Tennessee Vols potentially switching from Nike to Adidas or staying with Nike for less. South Carolina is an Under Armour school, if I'm not mistaken. Brad, does that affect recruiting? Do you have to overpay for certain guys because of it being Under Armour? And I know they've gotten a whole lot better with the branding, but Nike seems to be the top of the mountaintop when it comes and everybody else fall under. What effect has that had on South Carolina, you think, or have heard from other guys?
Yeah, South Carolina's Under Armour deal, it's been over a decade plus in Columbia. I think it ends June 1st of next summer. And a lot of Gamecocks around Columbia want the Gamecocks to move to, Nike or something like that. It certainly will be better than Under Armour. They're sort of, behind Adidas and Nike. And as far as Tennessee goes, I think the Vols should just stick with whatever's producing for them. I mean, if you can sign annual top 5, top 10 recruiting classes on your current Nike deal, then stick with them. But if you're getting a boost in revenue and apparel and looks on the field with Adidas, then that's a move that I think, Tennessee's administration should make. But right now, Nike and Adidas are still college football's top apparel producers. And actually, Jordan Brand, I think now Jordan Brand has 8 or 9 schools, Florida and Michigan included. So Jordan Brand, a subsidiary of Nike, is certainly coming to the masses too.
Brand Crawford of 247 Sports, our guest, talking South Carolina football this morning as our SEC Spring Series continues. So, Brad, when you look at the weapons Lenora Sellers has around him, you bring back Mazio Bennett Jr., he signs a new deal with the collective. You got your left tackle, Josiah Thompson, going back if you're Shane Beamer. Nick Harbor is a full-time football player now. I've watched him run track since he was early in high school, and a little bummed to see him not do that anymore. I know South Carolina fans, though, are probably pretty happy about it. And then you add the Kentucky tight end Jordan Dingle to that group as well. How comfortable are you with the weapons Lenora Sellers has to allow him to take that next step and maybe be in that Heisman conversation this season?
Yeah, to be honest, this offseason, a lot of South Carolina fans and some of their staff included have disagreed with my take that they did not do enough as far as surrounding Sellers with more weaponry this offseason. They signed 5 4-star receivers, but both of you guys know to be a true freshman in the SEC and be an impact player at the wideout spot doesn't happen too often. I mean, George Pickens and Ryan Williams the last couple of years really are the only guys at Georgia and Bama who have done that. And I don't know if one of these 2025 freshman signees for South Carolina can be a, 45-catch, 700-yard guy. But the expectation in Columbia, since they did not go portal with a pass catcher, is Nick Harbor ascends to wide receiver 1 for this offense. I have not seen that out of Harbor. He certainly has the talent to do so, but man, it's just going to be asking a lot going from, 30 catches, 500 yards to exceeding 1,000 yards this fall. I think one of the biggest losses was Josh Simon at tight end. He led the team in catches, yards, and touchdowns last year, and I don't think this offseason many people are talking enough about what a big loss that is for that offense.
Brad, offensive coordinator Dow Loggins, now the head coach at App State. Mike Shula comes in. Shane Beamer's ability to manage his staff, and particularly the offensive coordinator position, which has been a little bit of a revolving door in his time as head coach. How big of a hire was this? How much pressure is on Mike Shula and on Shane Beamer as well to get this hire right? Because, Brad, is it fair to say this has kind of been one of his weaknesses, despite all the good things he's done at South Carolina, is getting that hire right?
I think it has because, Marcus Satterfield, the first couple of years as South Carolina's play caller under Shane Beamer, left a lot to be desired. Then he went to Nebraska, and after one season, lost his job to Dana Holgerson, who's now calling the plays for the Huskers. And, Dow Loggins, credit to him for being at South Carolina 2 seasons and sort of using that to leapfrog to the head job at App State. But now Mike Shula, he's a relatively unproven play caller. I know he has a ton of SEC coaching experience. Former coach at Bama, has coached in the NFL on offense, but hasn't done it much at the college level, at least in recent years. But I don't think this offense is going to change a whole lot. They may ask Lenora Sellers to not run as much. I mean, you can't have your 6'5", 240-pound quarterback taking that many shots every game, considering he's one of the best players in the conference. But they like what they have behind them. Luke Doty at wide receiver has been converted back to a quarterback. He has starting experience too. So I would see the Gamecocks trying to develop more of Sellers as a downfield passing threat this season than being a 1,000-yard rusher like he just about was last fall.
Defensively, as I said earlier, you guys lost a lot in the secondary. Was it Nick Imawari? Lost him also to the draft this past year, but you also reloaded, man, with guys like DQ Smith, Jalen Kilgore, also another freshman All-American, man, and also his cousin or brother, Gerald Kilgore. How is that secondary going to fare, especially when you mention wide receivers in the SEC? Well, South Carolina's always been one of those teams where rush and coverage always match up together. So how's that secondary going to be?
Yeah, I think the back end of the defense, Ramon, is probably the Gamecock strength of the team outside of the quarterback spot. Judge Collier and Jalen Kilgore, the corner and safety combo, are two future, I think, day one NFL draft picks. You mentioned Kilgore's brother, too. He's going to be an impact player. They like Vakari Swain at the other cornerback spot. So they're very good in the secondary and in center field. But my question is, last year, they were one of the SEC's top defenses in sacks and havoc numbers. And when you lose Defensive Player of the Year Kyle Kennard, that puts a little more stress on your secondary since quarterbacks are probably going to have some more time. They lost both starting linebackers, Demetrius Knight, another guy that was drafted, and they picked up 2 transfers there. So like Mike Norvell at Florida State, Shane Beamer needs to come through this portal cycle and make sure these players are not only evaluated properly, but develop into immediate starters too, because we saw it happen 2 years ago at Florida State. Mike Norvell did a great job of that, went 13-1. And then the flip side of that is last season Florida State went 2-10 when they whiffed on some guys. So this portal class has to be impactful for Shane Beamer.
Brad, on the way out, one Vols question for you as we close here. And I know you've watched a lot of Appalachian State football and a lot of Joey Aguilar. First time, really, we've seen Josh Heupel have kind of a gunslinger, maybe a different profile, maybe not by choice either than what he's typically had, considering the Nico Iamaleava saga that is now finally over. What are your expectations for Joey Aguilar at Tennessee, and do you think he wins that job right away for the Vols?
Yeah, I tell you, I would feel a whole lot more confident in Joey if he had a guy like Dylan Sampson coming back in the backfield to take some of that pressure off of him. I think that the pressure is going to be super, super high on the Vols offense this offseason. I think UCLA, at least from the outside looking in, got the better end of that deal. I'm not downing Josh Heupel and the Vols for not wanting to meet Iamaleava's contract standards, but I mean, he did take you to the playoff last season, and you're losing arguably your top returning player at the program and replacing him with a guy who has never started an SEC football game. So that's some big shoes to fill. It helps early that I think of Tennessee's first 6 or 7 games, the only ranked team is Georgia, and the Vols get them at Neyland, which that'll be 100,000 plus sellout in Rocky Top. So I like Tennessee this season as a team that, gets back to maybe that 8 or 9 win mark. But, man, getting to the playoff without Nico, that's going to be a tall task.
He is Brad Crawford, talking college football, 247 Sports at bcrawford247, where you follow him. Great stuff covering the entire sport around the country, talking some South Carolina with us this morning. Appreciate you as always, Brad. Great stuff.
Appreciate it, Brad.
Yes, sir. There's Brad Crawford with us here this morning, talking South Carolina football. One of many teams, Ramon, I think, with a playoff ceiling.
Yeah.
In probably a 6 or 7 win floor. There's a lot of those this year.
One thing I know we're talking a lot about Lenora Sellers, but like that defense is going to be monstrous. He say what he wants about Dylan Stewart as far as the double teams. That man is a maniac out there, Will.
Mm-hmm.
Like I wouldn't be shocked if the top of the top came after him again this year because I think he's a true sophomore. Like he could break the bank in college football with what he's capable of.
He's a good player.
He's a real good player.
He's going to have to deal with the James Pierce Jr. effect now as well, that once you put on film what you did as a freshman, teams start noticing you.
Yeah.
And for James, it was more what he did as a sophomore going into his junior season. But Dylan Stewart did what James Pierce did as a sophomore last year as a freshman.
No.
So now he's got to deal with what James dealt with as a junior.
They're going to have to be very strategic in how they send him out now.
No doubt.
He might have to get off the ball some. Be a floater type of guy on defense.
South Carolina is just another team, and I asked it to Brad, like, if Shane Beamer can get some of these staff hires right and elevate his program versus just sustain what they are, that is a program that sneakily can be a playoff team every 2 or 3, 4 years.
I mean,
like you get the right quarterback to elevate what you have going on. I have some doubt about Mike Shula being the offensive coordinator and play caller to take them to the next level. Mm-hmm. And they've got a quarterback that could take them to the next level.
And not only that though, but they're setting themselves up for this year as far as Lenora Sellers, but they also ended up taking Ohio State's Aaron Nolan for next year too.
Right,
like he transferred to South Carolina this year, and he'll be looking for an opportunity to potentially start next year for them. So they got plans in place, Will. But you're right, it's a matter of coaching for them, and because the other part is for South Carolina. They're going deep into Baltimore, Maryland area, in that DC to recruit.
Yep, for sure.
They got a backyard full of athletes that everybody's just stealing but them. I do raise that question, like, does branding mean something to them?
Aaron Noland is a crazy quarterback
what a
name. With a name like Air as a quarterback, you better be a stud.
I don't even care what the rest of his name is. Well, like, it could be Ariante for all I care. Like, Aaron Noland being your name, like, what else are you meant to do? Who?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Like, he's supposed to be in the slam dunk contest or a freaking quarterback. We're talking about Air McNair? No, we're talking about Air at this point.
I love it.
Golly.
615-737-1045. A new contract in the NFL yesterday. One player reached a $63 million extension on a team that I think national NFL media is not talking about enough. And we'll talk about that next.
It's Ramon Foster for the Wellness Institute of Nashville. Good people, man. Dr. Mitchell and Dr. Ashley should know the names, man, because here's the thing. They're going to care about you and not give up on you when it comes to your back or knee pain. I got an appointment today just for maintenance. I ain't even hurting right now. It's just for maintenance because that's what they want to do for you to be able to live life pain-free, and especially in your back and spinal area and knees, too. So much so they have a deal going on for you. It's 47% off the non-surgical spinal decompression. It's an offer they're giving for 2025, man, to help you battle and win against pain, man. Again, no more sleepless nights. Say goodbye to the disc bulges, the herniations, the spinal stenosis. Listen to me. There are no pills or spinal creams that open the spinal disc to take pressure off your nerves. You either have to have surgery or go to the non-surgical side of it to open up the spinal disc. And they take that very serious at the Wellness Institute of Nashville. I've done it myself. I'm also a consumer. So, again, start your year off right now with a pain-free life, and it is possible. Reaching out to the company that I trust and use, the Wellness Institute of Nashville, 615-246-5009, or go to painisbad.com.
Ramon Will is fueled by Scooter's Coffee at 104.5 The Zone. Wrapping up the first half of the show. 615-737-1045, our number. So yesterday, the San Francisco 49ers agreed to a 3-year, $63 million contract with Fred Warner. That deal ties the star linebacker to the team through the 2029 season, returns him to the top of the list of highest paid off-ball linebackers in the league, Ramon, at $21 million per year. Adding $56 million in guaranteed money to a deal that no longer had any, according to ESPN's Adam Schefter. The 49ers have been busy.
Yeah.
They get a deal done with George Kittle a few weeks back. Then they add Brock Purdy to the list this past weekend. And now yesterday, Fred Warner. Are we talking about San Fran enough as a contender in the NFC?
No, we're not. But I also question what kind of contenders are they going to be, though, because you lost Deebo Samuel. You lost that side of it. The fact that Christian McCaffrey can't stay healthy long enough to keep them competitive. Also, their offensive line have been somewhat rebuilt. Their defense got pillaged a little bit. What they do have, Will, to that point as far as talking about who they are as a team, as far as the Super Bowl goes, is a bunch of names. But here's the thing. Those names aren't even on the same collective spot. They got a tight end, they got a tackle, they got a quarterback, right? But what else are they servicing you to make them that much of a believer? I do think they are in this position where they got to stabilize their franchise into this new transition that they're going into. But I personally don't see them as contenders right now. I just don't.
So San Francisco this season, their 2025 schedule is not a really easy one. 2 games on the road to start off their season, in Seattle and in New Orleans. So 1 out of 2 ain't bad. You get the Cardinals, Jags, in LA against the Rams, in Tampa against the Bucks. For their first 6 games on the road. A back-heavy schedule that includes Falcons, Texans, Giants, Rams again, Cardinals again, Panthers, Browns, a Week 14 bye week, Titans, Colts, Bears, and Seahawks. That's a tough division, the NFC West, but that's not a crazy schedule outside of the 6 games they'll play against playoff contenders.
No, it's not. On top of, like you said, Seattle getting a little bit better, and they got to figure out what they're going to do with Kyler. But just in general, there's not a whole lot offensively that scares me with them. And I do feel like, at least for the regular season portion of positioning, you got to have a strong offensive team. And that's why I think they missed the boat a little bit as one of those styles, one of those types of teams. Although most would tell you, well, because of Shanahan and his offense, they'll find ways to be successful. Well, a lot of this goes now to Brock Purdy.
It does.
He has to be a star. And I would also say this, too. Jawan Jennings moves up to your number 2 at this point.
Depends on the health and the progression of Ricky Pearsall.
And Ayuk.
Brandon Ayuk is number 1.
You think he's going to be healthy, though, too? I mean,
that's the question.
Yeah. Fascinating approach to what their team is. And this is the biggest role that Ayuk has had, I feel like, in a while, because it's been Debo's team.
It has been. Deebo Samuel is in Washington.
Yeah, and Kittle is there, too, but Kittle also has the injury bug from time to time, and he'll miss. He runs hot, which is a good thing for him.
If the 49ers stay healthy, I still think they're one of the 3 best teams in the NFC.
In the NFC.
But that's a big if, because they have a lot of injury-prone players who have been snake-bitten in previous seasons. So in the draft, we'll talk more about this with Rhett Bryan tomorrow. We're going to go division by division with Rhett on draft classes of Titans opponents. Tomorrow we're going to do NFC West, since the Titans play the entire NFC West. They went defense heavy, though, in the draft, just looking at it from a surface level. Mykel Williams, the edge out of Georgia, at pick 11. Alfred Collins, the D tackle from Texas, their second pick. Then they go linebacker with Nick Martin, the linebacker out of Oklahoma State. They address that need. They find their Dre Greenlaw replacement in him. Upton Stout, the corner out of Western Kentucky, and then C.J. West, the D tackle out of Indiana. Their first 5 picks were on defense this past season, which tells me there is pressure on Brock Purdy to elevate the young weapons around him. Ricky Pearsall and Jawan Jennings is the supporting cast around Brandon Ayuk. There's a lot riding on those guys taking a step forward this season. Jennings, maybe not as much step forward, or just Jennings maybe just more doing what he's been doing after a career season last year, but the health of the 49ers is one of the more interesting stories to me in the NFC, because the NFC is just so wide open. The AFC, you know who the proven commodities are. Behind the teams of the NFC North and Philly, I have no clue what I'm getting in contenders in the NFC.
I agree with you.
No clue. Because you got question marks with Sam Darnold in Seattle. J.J. McCarthy's a big question mark in Minnesota. Matthew Stafford's not getting any younger in L.A. Is this finally a year that Jonathan Gannon and the Arizona Cardinals can kind of take a step forward into legit playoff contenders with some of the talent they've built up? Because they've stunk long enough now where they've got some dudes on that roster and some high draft picks. The NFC, to me, just is still wide open behind Philly.
And then you got Baker. I mean, that could potentially turn into something this offseason, too.
And Detroit replacing two coordinators is not a small thing. There is enough continuity on that staff and on the way San Francisco operates that if they stay healthy, I think they're one of the top 3 teams of the NFC.
I see a pathway to that, but honestly, to me, I feel like the era that they're in the soft rebuild era.
Right. They're trying to reload at the same time and
be competitive.
They are one of the many contenders, and Houston I'd put in this conversation as well, who are subtracting good veterans to try to just reload while competing for a Super Bowl.
The guys that they have are guys that you want on your team. Like, I'm looking at the lineup potentially. Ayuk, you said it a second ago. Ayuk, Jennings, Kittle, Pearsall, McCaffrey. And I throw Trent Williams in there because he's just that unique.
Yeah, he's still that good.
You know what I'm saying? He's still that good.
Still that guy.
But at what point does Father Time catch up to him? When does an injury catch up to him also? And if that happens, their offensive line, I'm questioning it. On the other side of the ball, too, defensively, they're going to have to roll with Bosa and on the defense is the way I look at it. On the defensive line, that is. And a bunch of young guys that you hope are pop with guys like Fred Warner that can help lead them. So, again, to your point a second ago, they put the ball in the bag in your hand, Brock Purdy. I've always said franchise quarterbacks are supposed to win half the games themselves and everybody else do the rest. That might sound very unreal, but that's what they've pretty much told him of where they are defensively, I feel like, more than anything.
Right.
And then the other side is if you have Juwan or Ayuk go out, who are your replacements?
That's a good question.
That's a steep fall off, I feel like, behind those guys.
Sure. Interesting. NFC West, a division of interest for the Titans this season, considering they play all the teams in it. And you get San Francisco late in the season, week 15, with them coming off of a bye. So we'll see who's healthy by the time the Titans go to San Fran. Or go to Palo Alto, really. That stadium's not close to San Francisco.
I will label them as a physical division, too. You got to get
NFC
gritty in the NFC West.
I would agree.
Rams.
It's fair.
I mean, that's a hate match between them. I like that. I'm be quite honest with you. That San Francisco LA Rams matchup is always a grudge match. I don't want to use hate. RG3 used that the other day. I can't use that no more. Not hate. That's a grudge match.
You're not even 10% as corny as that guy is, though, respectfully. 615-737-1045 is our number with hour 3 on deck. We are 1 year removed, a little over 1 year, removed from the Titans deciding to move on from Derrick Henry and Derrick Henry agreeing to move on from the Titans. Well, Derrick Henry ran for 1,900 yards last season, and now he has an extension from Baltimore. Let's look 1 year now in retrospective. Did the Titans make the right call there? That's next.
It is 8:01 from the 104.5 The Zone studios. Good morning. I'm Justin Hawkins. In NFL news, league meetings are taking place today and tomorrow in Minneapolis. Today, owners are expected to vote on NFL players participating in the 2028 Summer Olympics in Los Angeles for flag football, and it is expected to pass per ESPN's Adam Schefter. Tomorrow, owners are expected to retable the Packers' proposal to ban the tush push after they made revisions, and also the Lions' proposal to reseed playoff teams based on their regular season records. Tonight, conference finals begin in the NBA. Anthony Edwards and the Minnesota Timberwolves. They are in Oklahoma City to face the Shai Gilgeous-Alexander-led Thunder for Game 1. Tip-off tonight is at 7:30 p.m. on ESPN. And in the NHL, the Carolina Hurricanes, they host the reigning Stanley Cup champs, Florida Panthers, in Raleigh for Game 1. Puck drop is at 7 p.m. on TNT. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, you've got to visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Ramon Will, the 104.5 The Zone, into the second half of your Tuesday morning. Welcome in. Hope it's been a good morning with you so far. 615-737-1045 is our number. Fall Quest Salsa Price coming up here in 20 minutes. Brian Callahan meeting with the media in hour 4 at 9:30 this morning. Alongside Ramon Foster, I'm Will Bowling. Justin Hawkins is our producer. We stream the show live on 104.5 The Zone TV. That's Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch. So, Ramon, the Ravens and, yeah, that's right, Derrick Henry agreed to a 2-year, $30 million contract last week that will keep the 31-year-old off the free agent market, rewarding him for a record-breaking first year in Baltimore. $25 million guaranteed. After spending his first 8 seasons, of course, here in Tennessee, signed a 2-year, $16 million deal with the Ravens last March, and then rushed for 1,900 yards and 18 touchdowns. That tied a career high. We are 1 year removed and a couple of months from the Titans moving on from him. And yeah, we don't know if Derrick even wanted to come back to begin with, but let's be honest. The Titans did not heavily pursue a new contract with Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
They were ready to move on. Was that the right call? Now, considering the money that Derrick is getting to stay in Baltimore and the season that he just had?
First thing first, I put Derrick on the regular running back clock. I was wrong. I could, as a person that covers sports, I was wrong.
So he exceeded your expectations last season.
Way more than I thought. Well, to be quite honest with you, Derrick is an avatar. He's him when it comes down to that. And if he keeps rolling, we're talking about HOF. I'm not sure if he's there yet. We're talking about HOF. He's got that other 2,000. They put him in. They should have let him do it. But with that being said, I think the Titans needed to move on, and I think Derrick wanted to also. If you're going to move into this new regime and try to figure out what's the best things for you, you don't get Cam Ward if Derrick Henry is here. That's one part of it, correct? The other part is Derrick Henry was a free agent, chose not to sign back. I do think there was potentially a conversation that was had on, trying to make a deal happen. But that's up to Derrick. It's a free market. You do what you have to in those points. And Derrick is ring chasing, and I do not blame him. This was both parts, I think, was right on this one. And if you are a very strong Titans fan, you still say to yourself, you still bring him back. Again, you needed a quarterback. Are you willing to have Derrick and Will Levis, right? And would you try to reset yourself and get your franchise quarterback for the next, hopefully, 15 years?
Albert Breer writes at SI.com yesterday, the deal with Henry is good for everyone involved, and that is unprecedented for a 30-year-old running back. Adding, in the grand scheme of things, they are paying $14 million this year, $11 million next year, and have a $12 million option now for 2027. So he gets $18 million, Derrick does, in new money over the $7 million he was slated to make this year and over the next 2 years. If he breaks down, the cost will be what it costs for a slot receiver in 2025.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to me as well. Derrick Henry's final season for the Titans, 280 carries, 1,167 yards, 4.2 yards per attempt. His lowest since 2017 when he was a backup. So his lowest season in terms of yards per attempt as a starting running back in the National Football League, and only 12 touchdowns. Yeah. Was Derrick breaking down here at all, or did Derrick just not have the group around him to allow him to be successful?
Both of those work together because the group around him means more beating on his body. He was allowed last year, looking at the Ravens season, and we got our Raven resident and next door. I have to ask him on break, but
he may or may not be in the control room right now.
Snap! I didn't even see him over there. This is a new spot for me. Will I can't? I hadn't really got my optics together and over here. But Derrick, you remember Harbaugh pulled and set Derrick times throughout last year. He was allowed to be rested up. He was allowed to be strong going into that second half of games where he just reel off a 90-yard run here and there. I don't think he would have been allowed to do that here. The need to win for a first-time head coach and Coach Brian Callahan would have had Derrick getting beat down. And on top of the offensive line that he had last year, Will, those two things work hand in hand. If I got to fight City Hall, if I'm getting hit in the backfield the entire time, I'd rather go somewhere else.
Here's what I'll say about the Derrick Henry and the run-first offense thing. If we'd known how reliant on the run game the Titans were going to be this past season, I would have brought him back. I would have rather had him than Tony Pollard doing what you were doing last season, considering how run-heavy you were as an offense. But to me, that was not by choice. That was by requirement. Because your quarterback play was not up to standard and your offensive line was not good enough at pass protecting to really allow you to be very successful in the pass game anyway. That's the thing. It felt like to me the Titans pivoted very quickly away from run first, ground and pound, Derrick Henry is the identity of our offense, and tried to do a total 180 and ended up realizing that they needed to just start by going 90 degrees versus 180 degrees. And that the best version of them as an offense last season was still being run first. I don't think that was their plan going into 2025. And then their offensive line was so bad and Will Levis was so bad, they had no choice. I think if they had known that, they would have tried to bring back Henry on a 1 or 2 year deal.
But it's also the concept of the offense, too, for the offensive coordinator. I'm looking at the other side of just besides the running for me. All right, both guys over 1,000 yards. Derrick had over 900 more than him. Yeah. But the one separate, I think, what Callahan wanted to do is the other part of it also.
I agree. That's what I'm saying.
He wanted to, I think, throw the ball more with a more diverse back.
He just couldn't.
Tony Pollard had 57 targets. Derrick had 20.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And I totally see that and agree with it. To me, it's less about what they wanted to do and what they were forced to do. Because they were forced to, I think, run the ball and be more reliant on the run game than they wanted to in a perfect world last season. And if they'd known they would have to be that run heavy, I would rather have Derrick Henry and be that run heavy than Tony Pollard.
Yeah,
I would.
But you had to almost remove yourself from Derrick to become a head coach that you wanted to be here too for Coach Callahan. I think the way it broke up, it was perfect. I don't think there's any other way around it. Derrick needs to go chase that ring.
You're in the middle of the growing pains of it still.
You are. And a lot of these fans here in Tennessee have said the exact same thing. Like, don't waste his career here. Do you feel like, all right, it's hard to play hypotheticals, even though we do that from time to time on this show.
Oh yeah, it's part of it.
But I look at Derrick Henry being here and say, how many more wins would you have gotten? Would it have stopped the nosebleed in Detroit?
I don't think that many because he wasn't. He was not – good days for Derrick Henry used to mean you won the game.
Yeah.
That stopped in 2023 when you lost 7 games in a row.
That's true.
That stopped in 2022 when you lost 7 games in a row, and in 2023. There was that stat where the Titans were almost unbeatable when Derrick Henry rushed for 100 yards. That ended. Like, maybe you would have had 1 or 2 more wins, but Derrick Henry's not on kick team.
No.
Derrick Henry's not stopping the special teams problems. Derrick Henry's not throwing the ball to the other team. So ultimately, I don't think it would have made a major difference, but I still would have rather had him if I'd known I was going to be that run heavy.
So
I still think they made the right call.
I'm with you.
Because you had no way of knowing that Will Levis was going to totally just crumble once he got under the lights and that the offensive line was going to somehow still not get better.
You almost forced Derrick into retirement if he's taking the hits that he did, what the running backs did this offense, for how spotty the production was too. It's tough talking about Derrick because you know what he means to Baltimore Ravens moving forward. Someone said that they made him the highest paid. The other thing, too, I think that's to be highlighted, they have a invisible cap on the running backs, too. What is Saquon highest? Was it 15, I think? Like, what's crazy about this salary right now for a running back? Saquon is teetering, I think, 14 also, if I'm not mistaken. What I'm saying is this. No matter how good you are, they have set a line for what they expect running backs to get paid. No matter how good you are at your position.
He's 2-year, $41 million now, Saquon is.
2-year 40 of like
20.6
a year
million
for Saquon.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's a different conversation for Saquon. What I'm saying about Derrick's situation was this. Adrian Peterson hit $12 million per year, I think, was about almost 10 years ago now. And Derrick's only $2 more million than that in the running back market. Saquon is an anomaly because Philly, they pay a different rate than almost everybody else. And he got a Super Bowl, too. That market, I think, is always going to have a wall. So most teams are going to get what they can out of running backs and move on.
Greg is up next on the phones this morning. Hey, Greg.
Hey, good morning, guys. I think if I remember back a year or so ago, I think the whole decision about having Derrick Henry stay or not, that wasn't even really a coaching decision. That was a front office decision. They made a decision to go in a different direction, and they capped on that when they hired the coaching staff. They did. We knew this coaching staff was not going to be a run-first type of staff. So that decision was made before the coaches really even had an opportunity to make that decision. They wanted, as they, quote, said, a more exciting offense.
Right.
And, just pounding the rock wasn't good enough. So that decision, I think, was made long before, and I think it was the right decision because what we needed to make Derrick effective the way he was this past year was going to take us 2 years to build. You put another 300 carries a season on him, that's 600 more carries, another, 2,400 yards you get out of him. That dude's done by the time you get to that contract, and you'd have to pay him $40 million. I don't think it was a good decision to keep him. I think it worked out best for everybody. Derrick got what he wanted, exactly what he needed to be the type of player he could be. We didn't have it ready for him, so it made sense for him to leave and for us to start the rebuild.
Yeah.
Thank you, Greg. I think it's a good call, and I think you make all the good points there.
The biggest point, though, is the do you believe and trust that they would do the rebuild right? Is what what I've heard amongst the talking heads. Do you trust letting Derrick go and say, yeah, this is part of the rebuild?
I think the challenge is, too, that if you're in a rebuild, you don't sign enough players that even out the compensatory pick that you would have gotten for Derrick Henry. That's the part of it. Duck made that comment on YouTube a little bit ago and said, Rand Carthon's mistake in all of that was not letting Derrick go. It was spending so much money that you didn't get a compensatory pick in exchange for Derrick Henry. And I agree.
Yeah.
If you are in a rebuild, you don't go spend all of Amy Adams-Strunk's money and the $100+ million on free agents in one offseason. You spread that out over a couple of free agency acquisition cycles, understanding that you might not compete right away, but that you're going to get some compensatory picks in return and you can sign cheap talent that's homegrown in the future. Difficult discussion.
Do you trust the rebuild?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't a rebuild yet.
It wasn't.
But it is now. 615-737-1045. I'll get back to your phone calls later here in hour 3. But coming up next, Austin Price of VolQuest gives us the latest out of Knoxville after this. It's Austin on Ramon and Will. This Tuesday morning continues in hour number 3. A beautiful day in the Music City. Alongside VFL Ramon Foster, I'm Will Bowling. Justin Hawkins, our producer, joined by VolQuest's Austin Price at this time each and every Tuesday. What's up, Austin? How are you?
I'm doing great, guys. How are you?
We are excellent, Austin. Joey Aguilar on campus, the film process beginning. What are the rumblings? Is he the best quarterback of all time yet, Austin? Does he have his Adidas stuff picked out in a year? What's the early returns on the film study for Joey Aguilar there in Knoxville?
Well, Joey being a one and done is going to be a Nike guy.
That's right.
With Tennessee under Nike for at least the next year, and we'll see after that. But no, I mean he's hit the ground running. Spent a lot of time with coaches. Spent a lot of time with Josh Heupel. He's been throwing to some people that are still around the complex. Some kids are at home and taking advantage of the break they get in May, and some are still around. And so he's been able to do some things. But the biggest thing is just mentally compartmentalizing everything that's a change, because you're going from Appalachian State's offense to UCLA's offense to now Tennessee's offense in a matter of months. And I don't think the one change is that difficult, but I think when you start mixing 3 different terminologies, that could be a problem. So I think for him, it's just about familiarizing yourself with everything involved with Tennessee football right now.
And also, it's interesting that we were talking earlier this morning, like Josh Heupel's not had a lot of risk-taking quarterbacks, gunslinger quarterbacks that throw a lot of interceptions and take a lot of risks. How different of a profile is he versus other guys that Josh Heupel has worked with? Is this kind of a new challenge for Josh, maybe a little bit?
Yeah, I think anytime you're introducing a new quarterback, it's a challenge, whether they're a risk-taker or not. You could argue that sometimes, if you're too passive, that Josh Heupel's not going to want you to do that either.
Right.
And, I think in sports as a coach, there's that fine line between pass the ball and shoot the ball, to use it in basketball terminology. I mean, like, you don't need a volume shooter, but you also don't need somebody that's risk adverse to the decision-making process. And so I think, for Josh Heupel, he's trying to, kind of pick the brain, kind of figure out who Joey Aguilar is, and kind of go from there. Again, this is an open competition. If Joey Aguilar turns it over a bunch in fall camp, I doubt he'll be Tennessee's starting quarterback. And so, he's got to figure out a way to play within the framework of what Josh Heupel wants between now and really the 1st of September.
Austin Price with us this morning, Vol question on 3, talking some Vols. Austin, one way to combat a spotty quarterback and offense is with a real good defense, specifically getting after the opposing quarterback at the line of scrimmage, man. How are we feeling about a guy like Joshua Joseph and the crew that's behind him, man, with Caleb Herring and Jordan Ross too? Because on paper, those guys should be really good with the pedigree that they are and experience that they have too. But how do you view that group going into this SEC play this fall?
I like the group. There's some unknown there. Caleb Herring has done just a very little in his couple of years here. This is a big year for him. He had a really nice spring before he had to have some cleanup surgery done there at the end of spring. Jordan Ross flashes, has to continue to build, but there's all kinds of upside there. And Josh Josephs is a guy who I think is motivated. There is no James Pierce, and I think that he's relishing the chance to be the guy in the room, and then a couple of the younger guys after that. But it's a group that I think, much like the receivers, much like some parts of the offensive line, there's some unknown to it, but there is some known there to Josh Josephs, and he has a real chance to establish himself this year as an elite pass rusher in this league.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned unknown, because one known commodity, man, in 2 summers in a row, the Vols will have projected 2 first-round defensive players. That one for this year is Jermont McCoy. I know he's coming back off the injury. 1, where is he at with that? And 2, his expectation with this play, Austin, going into this fall. How soon do you expect them to get back in the lineup for the Vols defensively, too? Because that can mean a lot, especially with this offense, man, and how many questions it has.
Well, I mean, obviously he's going to try to push himself to be back as quickly as possible. I do think the addition of Colton Hood gives him some wiggle room. It doesn't have to feel the immediate pressure to be back by the start of the season. But ultimately, Jermod McCoy wants to be back as quickly as he can, right? I mean, nobody wants to set the bench and watch from the sidelines. I just think for Tennessee's perspective, you have a little bit more, safety net there with Colton Hood's addition than you did before. And so Jermod McCoy is continuing to progress. I do not think he's behind schedule. I think in a perfect world, he'd be ready for the first game. I think in the best world for Tennessee, he is knocked a fraction of rust off and is ready to go when Georgia rolls to town week 3. But again, I think that's the best case scenario outside of the fact, he just is way ahead of pace and is ready to go for the first week. I think ultimately you just would like to have him feeling good, feeling confident in the knee when Georgia rolls to town.
For sure. Austin, I know taking an SEC coaching job in any sport almost is like becoming the president of the United States, the way it ages you and how it kind of sets up the stress level. So I know the stress is always there. I know the pressure's all the way there, too. But as much has happened so far with the Vols in the spring and the injury with Jermod McCoy and the players that you lost and the experience on the offensive line, is there a little bit of cover over Heupel as it pertains to job security? And now I know it's way too premature to mention that type of stuff, but the need to win in the SEC and just the SEC in general, as you had Urban Meyer saying he think the Big Ten has passed up the SEC. How do you feel about Josh Heupel in this role this year in particular with what he needs to do with the Vols?
I guess the question is, does he have some buffer because Nico left?
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I guess in theory, right? But I don't think he's approaching it that way. I think he's approaching it with some urgency. I think, and honestly, let's call this kind of a challenge. If he goes out and takes either Merklinger or Joey Aguilar or George McIntyre, for that matter, and wins 10 games with, 3 guys that weren't pegged to be Tennessee starting quarterback, let's say March 30th, then – I mean, what does that say about Josh Heupel? I think he likes to play with a chip on his shoulder, or coach with a chip on his shoulder. I think that Josh Heupel sees this as a real challenge to kind of prove himself a little bit. And Tennessee in general, Ramon, always is better when they are the underdog in all sports. Like you go back to 2005, Ramon. You guys were preseason ranked 3rd. Right. How'd that season go?
Man, 5-7.
Now, part of that is indecision at the quarterbacks. They'll spot 5 and 6. Let's not give yourself an extra loss. They only played 11. They only played 11 back
That's
then.
Right.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
But the point is like, when Tennessee's been kind of like thought of like, middle of the road, like how they'll be picked, come July in the SEC media days. I think they always kind of perform better, and that goes to basketball, that goes to baseball. So I'm really intrigued by this team. I thought about this last night. This is the most kind of like intrigued, kind of like I'm really just fascinated to watch how this transpires since the Schaefer-Ainge quarterback battle in 2004. That's the most. It really is for me. It's the most kind of like, man, I kind of excited to watch this quarterback competition. Kind of see what this team looks like because nobody really knows. I mean, you lose Dylan Sampson. I like their running backs, but you lose Dylan Sampson. He's the SEC Offensive Player of the Year. Your receivers are a bunch of unknowns. Some of your offensive line are unknowns. I'm excited to see what David Sanders does. What does Lance Hurd bring in year 2? Quarterback position, obviously. I mean, call me crazy. I just think there's a lot of intrigue with this team because of the unknown. Maybe they end up being 5 and 6. Maybe they end up going 10 and 2. You just don't know. And again, I don't think they're going 5 and 6 because of the schedule. But my point is like you don't know what this team can be or will be, and that's probably scary for some. But I also think it's exciting for others.
Austin Price of VolQuest on 3, our guest this morning on Ramon and Will. So, Austin, this Adidas versus Nike thing has become a major talking point for Tennessee fans. And
I know.
Yeah, right. Shocking. I know. And the idea.
It was the Monday Night Chat last night. It dominated the entire thing.
It totally did. And the idea that the additional amount of money could make up for, fans not having Nike gear to wear, but maybe even for athletes that are less interested in you because you're a Nike or Adidas school or whatever that is. Austin, you talk to a lot of recruits, and you have for a long time covering Tennessee of VolQuest. Do athletes care that much? Are high school football players not looking at Adidas schools because they're Adidas schools?
Maybe you remember, Will, you're so young, and Ramon, I'm not sure you would. Did you watch Jay Leno growing up?
A little bit.
He would do that segment on the Tonight Show called Jaywalking. He'd go out there and do man on the street, do interviews. What if I did that at 865 live this week? I just went out there and they're going to their car. Adidas or Nike? Would you not come here because of Adidas, or would you come here because and see what they say? The truth is to this point, and again, this is a different era where athletes feel more compelled to say how they feel.
Right.
But in the past, I don't think you could have ever said, well, Tennessee lost a kid or got a kid based off their apparel deal. No one knows that. I mean, you could make claims, but no one's ever come out and said, well, I didn't go here or I did go here because of this. That's just never happened with Tennessee. Now, I don't know if it would affect their ability to recruit. I don't know. That's a lot of fan speculation or whatever based off the fact that the fans just don't want to change.
Right.
If I had my druthers, Tennessee would be a Peter Millar school, but they're not.
I'm with you.
But the point is, I think for Tennessee, for Danny White, for the entire athletic department, it's about finding the right deal. And if somebody's offering you double the money of what somebody else is, and I don't think there's to that point where Nike has given them a firm offer or a firm rebuttal, I don't think it, even unless it's happened in the last day or so, Adidas had given Tennessee a written offer. But if you're just talking ballpark figures and the number is vastly different, you have to do what's best financially for your school. And Adidas doesn't have a lot of big power players, and that's a comment by the fans. Nobody wants to be with Adidas. Okay, but if you're Nike and you can't pony up to Tennessee without ponying up for all of the other Alabamas, Floridas, and so on and so forth, then, what sense does it make for Tennessee to take a bad deal? Right. They took a bad deal to get to Nike in 2014, but now they own a lot of the leverage. Tennessee sports is winning and everything else. They're having a ton of success. Obviously, the brand carries a ton of weight. They sell a ton of merch. Tennessee holds the negotiating leverage. And so if Nike can get close or thereabouts, I'm sure Tennessee would like to potentially stay with Nike. But if it's grossly different, you have to make the best financial decision, especially in this arms race where you're trying to raise money for funding these players, especially the rev share coming sooner rather than later.
And Austin, I think that's the interesting part of it too. And fans remember those horrific smoky gray jerseys that Adidas tried to do with the checkerboard inside the numbers and all those things. And the caveat that you guys had in the war room and that we talked about with Hubs on Friday is that Tennessee still designs its own uniforms. Am I correct in saying that will still be the case regardless of who this new contract is with, that a UT person is designing what these things look like instead of an Adidas or a Nike person?
That's correct. Tennessee would own the leverage on, knowing the color was going to be correct, what the uniform looks like, all that stuff. Now, the little earrings and stuff that go with it, the bells and whistles, the jewelry, so to speak, how thick is the orange collar around the gray jersey or the black jersey. I think that's that's small stuff that people are going to nitpick versus is the orange right? If the orange isn't right, then that's obviously a problem. Do you like the color of the smoky gray? Do they even keep smoky gray, or do they just roll with black? Adidas never had the black combination because Tennessee wasn't doing dark mode back then. So yes, Tennessee would have the autonomy and the full control over what they look like and the color and all of that stuff, if they elect to switch to Adidas, or, I think if they stick with Nike.
Does this mean more branding, a bigger footprint, marketing from Adidas if the Vols do go with them too? Because I'd expect them to be the flagship if this is the last negotiation. I think A&M is the bigger school right now with the biggest deal, but I'd expect more promotion from Adidas if that's the case.
Yeah, I would imagine if Tennessee elects to make the move, Ramon, that they would be the flagship or one of the 2 or 3 top flagship schools with Adidas, and that means they would get a lot more, notoriety. They'd get a lot more, branding out there from a national perspective.
Does that affect basketball much, though? Because Nike has this pipeline, and they get them early as far as basketball recruiting and which schools you go to.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's a possibility. The one thing I do know in this era is at the end of the day, most kids are going to take the biggest amount of money. So, if it's not all the time, sometimes kids take less to go to a school that they like the coach better, or they, like the surroundings, or they like the education part of it better. But on the whole, the money plays a huge part in most of these deals. And if a Nike school is offering you $100,000 and an Adidas school is offering you $800,000, are you really going to the Nike school and making $700,000? And I'm just using round figures as the example. Like, you're going to go where you're going to feel like you get the best deal for yourself, much like Tennessee is trying to figure out what is the best deal for them with the apparel company.
For sure.
He is Austin Price of All Quested on 3, joining us Tuesdays at 8:20 here on the show at Austin Priceless, where you follow him on Twitter. Excellent stuff as always, Austin. Thank you, sir.
Most definitely.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Austin Price, talking us off the ledge a little bit on Adidas. I think it's happening.
I think it's done. I think the deal is done, to be quite honest with you. Austin, he ain't give an answer, but he pointed to what we talked about earlier. The money in Danny White.
Yeah, it feels to me like even when Nike is given the chance to match whatever Adidas puts out there, the Adidas offer is that much more at this point. We'll see if that continues because Tennessee has leverage, but I think it's a bigger philosophical conversation. This is about more than just brands. It's about what are you willing to do to get a bigger pot to give your athletes. This is a new day and age with rev share and your need for more in your pot to give to athletes. At what cost are you willing to get more money?
It's almost the old, little statement, I'd rather be rich than famous. I mean, you can be popular with Nike, but you can be really rich by Adidas, though.
Yeah, sure.
That's the way it sounds to me.
615-737-1045. We got some time to catch up on your phone calls. Again, Brian Callahan will meet with the media in a little under an hour, coming up at 9:30. We'll carry that right here on the show. An extension in the NFL this morning for a player as a part of a position group that have got really high expectations to fix their offense. And that's next.
Two Rivers Ford announces employee pricing for everyone. Every tradesman, every dad, every rising star. You pay what we pay. Two Rivers Ford. Locally owned. American made.
Hear me out. Nobody wants to deal with a plumbing, HVAC, or electrical emergency. Not even a little bit, man. It just messes up your day because those items right there, it really messes up the flow of the house, especially on plumbing. Get it? It's a little pun right there. But most of the time, you don't even know what it's going to cost or if it'll get fixed right or if someone's trying to sell you something you simply don't need. When you call Hiller, their experts are going to solve your problems quickly, whether it be the plumbing, heating and cooling, or the electrical side. The price you're told is what you'll actually pay. There are no hidden fees or surprises when you get your bill. Cool part is Hiller's been here and over business for over 35 years and are family owned and operated. Their techs also very professional, very experienced, and very trustworthy, and they're all background checked and drug screened too. When they're on their way, cool part, you'll receive a photo of the tech and a link to track them in real time so you don't waste time waiting around. You know exactly when they're pulling up. Hear me out. I also book with Hiller too. So if you want to be like me and go to a company that you can fully trust, simply go to happyhiller.com.
Ramon Will, 104.5 The Zone, brewed up by Scooters Coffee, locally owned near you here in Middle Tennessee, in Rivergate, Smyrna, Brentwood, White House, or Mount Juliet. Amazing people, amazing drinks, amazingly fast. We have moved amazingly quickly through this Tuesday morning. Lost my L's there. Sounded like we were hunting wabbits.
Words, man.
Amazingly quickly.
Words. It's a lot of them during the week, Will.
So the Chicago Bears have signed an extension for All-Pro guard Joe Thuney, 2-year deal worth $17.5 million per season. Ramon Foster was in here doing pass sets in the break after seeding this.
I told you I quit.
Oh, okay.
I told you I quit. Well. I was just like, I'm about to go back to training at this point.
Coming up next on the Will Bowling Show, we'll...
Man, I'm going to the Wellness Institute after this anyway. Might as well get me ready, Will. Like 17 a year for a 32, almost 33-year-old.
So it makes his new 3-year contract, which runs through 2027, worth $51 million with $33.5 million fully guaranteed at signing.
Yeah.
Acquired from the Chiefs in exchange for a 2026 fourth.
I figured he'd get something because that was a conundrum anyway for the Chiefs. Is who do you pay? Creed's already gotten paid.
Creed Humphrey, the center.
Yep, the center. You knew you needed something also for Trey Smith, and they franchised him. They also paid their right tackle that keeps jumping off sides often, right? So this is a balance thing for the Chiefs. But you look at this with Thuney and you just say to yourself, gosh, it's good to be young. You know, in that situation with a team that has a young quarterback. And also this, too. I'm not going to slight Thuney at all by saying he was given that. He earned it because he's been one of the better guards in the league for a very long time. So it just shows you where Chicago is with this rookie contract, too, on their quarterback. They are pedal to the metal. No looking back. They broke the rearview mirror off and side mirrors, Will. They're moving forward.
Yeah, they certainly are. So that offense in Chicago, with Ben Johnson as the head coach, Caleb Williams is the quarterback, DeAndre Swift and Roshan Johnson are the running backs. Wide receivers, DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, and Luther Burden, backed up by Devin Duvernay, Tyler Scott, and Olamide Zaccheaus, among some others. At tight end, you draft Colston Loveland in the first round to pair with Cole Kmet. And your offensive line from left to right, Braxton Jones, Joe Thuney, Drew Dahlman, Jonah Jackson, Darnell Wright.
Oh.
That has potential to be a top 10 offense of the NFL, at least if they stay healthy. And that's the question for me on the offensive line when you sign aging offensive linemen like that, and they've brought in a couple of them. I mean, Drew Dahlman, Jonah Jackson, and Joe Thuney, that center guard triangle is experienced, but it ain't getting any younger.
No.
If those guys are at least just what they were last season, those three guys, then the Bears, I think, are a playoff team.
And you saw where they spent that to the interior.
Yeah, right.
That's to keep
center guard triangle.
That's to keep Caleb in the pocket.
And 2 young tackles on the outside. Braxton Jones, who's 26, 5th-round pick in 2022 out of Southern Utah, who they've liked. Had an ankle injury that ended his season early last year. And then Darnell Wright, the former Vol, is a first-round pick at right tackle who's gotten better.
Top 10 pick, too, at Darnell. And this is this year 3 leap for him that he's expected to take. But how many times does this work? I can think of Jacksonville in 17, where they spent a lot of money.
It worked for Kansas City when they got Joe Thuney.
Yeah, that's true, too.
I mean, they lost to Tampa Bay, Kansas City in the Super Bowl, got ticked off about it, built Patrick Mahomes at offensive line, and then they went and hoisted Lombardi a couple times.
It could be, with as many moves that they've made, it could be the 2024 Tennessee Titans, respectfully, right? It could be the Vince Young Philadelphia Eagles, team of superstars. I just wonder, can you buy it into a Super Bowl? Like, especially with an unproven quarterback. And I call Caleb unproven with the acknowledgement that he has an immense amount of talent.
Yeah.
But if we're having a guy right now that's probably just learning how to watch film, what an idiotic take, who's just now watching film, who's fully understanding, like when Tampa did it, right? That's the most recent team I feel like that's built it up like this with free agents. It wasn't in year 1 for them. It was year 2. Right? So to your point about this Asian group that they've signed, if they can stay healthy going into next year with a better improved Caleb Williams, because I want to believe, and I think you're right, I do think they have the opportunity to be a playoff team, but that's excluding Detroit, and that's also excluding Minnesota.
And Green Bay. They got to play twice.
They can still finish 4th.
Yeah.
Depending upon what Caleb Williams does.
Playing a 4th-place schedule, which helps the Chicago Bears a little bit, who opened the season at home against Minnesota. That one is on Monday Night Football to start the season. And then they go to Detroit the next week. They start with Minnesota, Detroit, Dallas, and Vegas before getting a Week 5 bye, Chicago.
And that's
early bye week.
Early bye week.
They also have road trips to Washington, to Baltimore, to Cincinnati, to Philadelphia, and to San Francisco. Chicago has got a tough schedule. And the fact that the NFC North matches up with the East this year is really, really fun. They get the NFC East and they get the AFC North. Pittsburgh goes to Chicago this year. So the NFC North last season was kind of buoyed by the fact that they played the South. They played the Titans. They played the Jags. They played Houston and Indy. This time around, the NFC North gets 2 juggernaut divisions. This is why the Lions' proposal of seeding based off of record and not division winners in the NFL cannot happen. Mm-hmm. It's going to eventually because the NFL wants a better television product. But I'm going to continue to die on this hill. Why should they, the NFC North, be punished for getting to play the NFC East and AFC North while the NFC West plays the South?
Get that.
It's not a balanced schedule.
It's not
you
balanced.
cannot compare apples to
apples.
apples.
But that's the NFL, though, too, right? Like, that's just the era that the AFC South is in.
And that's why you reward teams for winning their division, for surviving the same schedule that 3 other teams had with a few caveats that made them different.
100%, right? Because Houston has to play the first place, and if they win the AFC South, tip of the cap to me for them winning it. Now, because the other part of this is the NFC North has been mid for a very long time. So, like, it's funny to me that the team the team that's finally good again is proposing this because they're good. You know,
you only had to deal with this for 1 year.
Bro,
you don't have.
You just got a seat.
Like you played for the organization that has had to deal with this for a long time.
For a very long time.
In a well-run with 2 well-run teams, and then Cincinnati and Cleveland, who are also in the AFC North.
And the other part for me on the Chicago take, as far as what they're doing, they have to, because Minnesota is a contender.
Front is nasty.
Depending upon the young quarterback,
100%.
I trust them because of the proof that their head coach has done it for a few years now. Now, Ben Johnson doing this, we could get Coach Callahan's first year from him, respectfully, right? But there is a learning curve that he has to learn to know to be a head coach too, because Jonathan Allen, Javon Hargraves, Will Freeze, Rondell Moore, Byron Murphy Jr., like Aaron Jones, they got a freaking squad in Minnesota.
Spot Track puts this out. Mike Giannetti, the projected Bears offensive line contractually, the 2 tackles making a combined $9.2 million over the next 2 years. Their center guard triangle: Joe Thuney, 3 years, 51. Drew Dahlman, 3 years, 42. Jonah Jackson, 3 years, 52 and a half.
I quit.
That's a crazy overpay for Jonah Jackson, but that's what you do when you got a rookie quarterback you need to protect. Now, a second-year quarterback who doesn't watch film. 615-737-1045 is our number. The 4th and final hour coming up. We'll hit you with some more NFL headlines, an extension for a coach in the NFC, plus Brian Callahan meeting with the media coming up at 9:30. All that and more. Hour 4 is next.
It's a great time to shop at Genesis Diamonds, man, before tariffs cause price hikes on imported diamonds and jewelry. It's Ramon Foster, and Genesis is not raising prices on the pre-tariff inventory at all. So all in-stock merchandise is an incredible value right now. Genesis prepared for the tariffs and made a lot of overseas purchases way in advance, too. Handcrafted ring, exquisite diamonds, colored gemstones, and a ton of luxury pre-owned Rolex watches. If you got any special event coming up over the next 6 months or so, you need to get to Genesis now, man, before the pre-tariffs merchandise is gone. Genesis is always going to be the value leader here. You know that, regardless of what happens in the world. They were built on that foundation. But it's way beyond price. It's their selection, their quality, their outrageously good customer service, their industry-leading warranties, and don't forget about Genesis is the exclusive retailer for all the top names in bridal jewelry, too. The brand's other stores only wish they could get. Genesis Diamonds, where you will always get more for your money, but especially right now. They're located in Green Hills and Cool Springs.
It is 9 o'clock from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. Good morning. I'm Justin Hawkins. In NFL news, the Chicago Bears and newly acquired guard Joe Thuney have agreed to terms on a 2-year, $17.5 million extension per his agent, Mike McCartney, this morning. Thuney will make $51 million over the next 3 years and will be guaranteed $33 million at signing. League meetings are taking place today and tomorrow in Minneapolis. Today, owners are expected to vote on NFL players participating in the 2028 Summer Olympics in Los Angeles for flag football, and it is expected to pass per ESPN's Adam Schefter. Tomorrow, owners are expected to retable the discussion on the tush-push ban per the Packers' proposal after they made revisions. And the Lions' proposal is also said to take place tomorrow, which is to reseed playoff teams based on their regular season records. Tonight, conference finals begin. In the NBA, the Minnesota Timberwolves are in Oklahoma City to face the Thunder for Game 1. Tip-off is set for 7:30 p.m. on ESPN. And in the NHL, the Carolina Hurricanes host the reigning Stanley Cup champs, Florida Panthers, in Raleigh for Game 1. Puck drop is set for 7 p.m. on TNT. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Ramon Will at 104.5 The Zone is brewed by Scooters Coffee. Visit a locally owned location near you in Rivergate, Smyrna, Brentwood, White House, or Mount Juliet. Amazing people, amazing drinks, amazingly fast. He is the NFL veteran, the Vol Network color analyst, the one and only Ramon Foster. Justin Hawkins, Jayhawk, makes the show happen. I'm Will Bowling. You stream the show live at 104.5 The Zone TV each and every morning. That's Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch. We've crossed over 15,000 YouTube subscribers on the 104.5 The Zone YouTube channel. We're well over that mark. I've got a new goal for the people, Ramon Foster.
Yeah, let's do so.
Let's get to 20,000 104.5 The Zone YouTube subscribers by week 1 of the NFL season. That is a very, very tall task, a high bar. I think it's possible.
Hear me out. This is the opportunity to be a part of something cool.
Be a part of something special.
Something special.
Join a growing community.
You can be on the first wave of this thing. We're almost like Apple stock at this point. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can buy low and retire later is what we're telling you guys at this point, okay? Like, it was presented to a lot of people probably back in 03. Like, you can get on this Apple stock and people are probably looking like, I don't like Fuji apples.
So true.
I don't like Red Delicious. No. This is a product and a brand at 104.5 The Zone that can really help you down the line. And what I'm telling you is get in. Y'all look at pointless YouTube videos all the time.
It's free to you, and it'll take you in literally about 2 seconds.
If you can subscribe to the Outdoor Boys on YouTube, you can subscribe. R.I.P. to the channel, man.
R.I.P. and peace to the Outdoor Boys.
Golly, man. Or Cooking with Babish or whatever it is. You can subscribe to
Cooking with Babs?
Babish is the name of one.
Babish?
This dude's a great chef. I was
going to say, Dawn Davenport has a cooking channel.
We can go take it if Babs is up and want to go do it.
Yeah.
Easily would do that. Oh, my gosh. Cooking with Babs is what we would do.
Cooking with Babs.
Cooking with Babs. We might as well do that at this point, man. Or Walking with Will. Because you're not
walking with it. Because I'm not.
He can run with Ramon. Depends on how I feel. I'll do the running. You do the walking. How about that? You cool with that?
In that terms, it's jogging with Justin.
Terrific.
We got shows within the show at this point right
really
now.
Do.
Now, my run may be a walk, though, is what I'm telling you. So we'll get through it.
That's all right.
We'll get through it.
So anyway, 104.5 The Zone YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button for us while you are there. Every time we do this, somebody will comment and be like, I thought I was subscribed. Turns out I wasn't. Sorry, guys. I'm here every day. Make sure you're not one of those people.
Yeah, you ain't even got to hit the bell. Just
join the community.
Subscribe.
That's
exactly.
Right. Yesterday, Nick Sirianni and the Philadelphia Eagles agreed to a multi-year extension, set to enter the final year of his 5-year contract when he was signed by the Eagles in 2021. The 43-year-old, 48 wins, 20 losses with Philadelphia. His winning percentage of .706, Ramon, is the third highest in the Super Bowl era. The Eagles, of course, 1-6 down the stretch in 2023. Got off to a shaky start last year. Obviously, we know how it ended. 16-1 down the stretch, including Philadelphia's second Lombardi trophy. Deserved for Nick Sirianni, who this time last year was on the hot seat.
He was, man. Good for him. It also just forever answers the question, like, or the statement, the scenario. Winning cures everything. And also this, too, a little bit of patience, man. And the right moves can really set you up for life, because that's what this has done for Nick Sirianni. He's forever a Super Bowl winning head coach. He'll forever have somebody want to consult in him and want to have him around because of what he did with that team. And not just that, too, like being the head coach in Philly, the demand for excellence there. He answered that call. So I got to give a tip of the cap for guys that go through that process of being on the hot seat and persevering through. And here's the other part, too. Good players also help.
Sure.
Good players.
Never hurts.
never hurts.
So is there a coach, Ramon, this year in the NFL on the hot seat right now who is capable of having a resurgence and getting an extension this time next year? Maybe not Super Bowl. I don't think there's anybody on the hot seat right now that could win their team a Super Bowl. But is there a coach on the hot seat who you think takes advantage of what they are given this season and gets better, coaches themselves off the hot seat?
Coaches themselves off the hot seat is two guys that come to mind for me. I know you don't always give you one. I'll take the softball on mine. I'll see if you take the other one.
Okay.
Mike Tomlin.
Makes sense.
Since winning a playoff game in 2017. That's the biggest sticking point. Like, a lot of people are tone deaf with the record. Like, nobody cares about the record. The expectation is to win Super Bowls when you continually knock at that door. He's got to figure out a method, either through the way he's coaching inside of the building, the messaging, which Ryan Clark knocked the other day, or the idea that he may have to find better ways to win football games instead of running into a brick wall every single play offensively or relying upon the defense. He can help himself a lot, Will, by making it past the second round or the first round of the playoffs, if they even make the playoffs. Mike Tomlin is my one.
Who's the other one?
McDaniels out of Miami.
Oh, I didn't even think about it.
I thought that's who you were going to pick.
No, neither of those two guys were on my list.
Mike McDaniel.
Miami's a really interesting team this year because, again, they're kind of buried in a division behind Buffalo, who is favored to win every game this year. I don't know if you saw that the other day. Once their schedule came out, Buffalo, yeah.
Oh, Lord.
Favored in every game this upcoming season. A Miami team with, again, you hope a healthy Tua Tagovailoa. Interesting just what they have coming back. Jalen Ramsey's trade situation just kind of sitting out there again, but they had Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, the wide receiver room. Maybe he's the missing piece.
I mean,
for Mike McDaniel.
He could be the team guy they need.
They do have a lot of question marks. That offensive line, Joa Savanea coming in, the rookie, slated in at right guard. Patrick Paul at left tackle, James Daniels at left guard, Austin Jackson on the edge, and then Aaron Brewer at center, who had a pretty decent season.
He fits our offense.
He fits their offense really well because they get the ball out quickly, and he doesn't have to pass protect for long.
Exactly.
But in Miami, it just all comes down to his health. Because I agree with you. If Tua Tagovailoa starts and finishes the season healthy, yeah, I think Mike McDaniel could be one of those guys. Zach Wilson is the backup there now.
I know. And here's the other part, too, that Coach Brian Callahan is in on this, too. When you're dependent upon the success of your team because you're the offensive play caller directly, you're not going to fire yourself. And the moment you relinquish that power, which I don't think what Coach McDaniel or Coach Callahan will do, like, it's time to start looking for your replacement because you're supposed to be the guy.
Right. To me, the two that come to mind are both flawed answers. I think the answer is there's not someone that's going to do the Sirianni and go from a 1-6 collapse to a Super Bowl. I don't think there's anybody doing that. I do think there are two guys, though, that despite their very challenging schedules, if they're in the playoff hunt, they're off the hot seat. The first one's Brian Daboll in New York.
Ooh, you think?
I think Jackson Dart buys him a little bit of time as long as he shows some promise. I still believe so much in Brian Daboll as a quarterback developer. I don't know if I believe in Jackson Dart as someone coming from the Lane Kiffin offense that has a lot of guys that are running wide open in his scheme quite a bit. I think Jackson Dart needs some time and needs some growing pains, to be quite honest with you. I don't know if he starts week one. I mean, they've got Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston there anyway. He didn't have to start year one. But Abdul Carter's ability to make that defense like a top 10 defense of the league, I think is justified. I think they could be special on defense for the next 5-10 years.
Yeah, I'll roll with you there.
Darius Alexander, the D tackle from Toledo, you can't forget about him being added in the draft. That's a good top of the third, essentially second-round talent you get with the first pick in the third round. And I'm interested in what Cam Scatterbo can do for them right away. at running back as the third pick of the fourth round. But you look at their schedule. I mean, Brian Daboll has got trips to Washington and Dallas to start the season, and then Chiefs and Chargers. The problem is Brian Daboll might be 0-4 to start the season. And at that point, if you're 0-4 with Russell Wilson, it's probably Jackson Dart time when you take on the New Orleans Saints on October the 5th.
How much time does that buy him, or will they view him as hey, he's ruining the young guy too?
Because you have to play the Super Bowl champs twice. You play the Chiefs. So, their schedule this year. So they have got at Commanders, at Cowboys, Chiefs, Chargers, Saints, Eagles, in Denver, at Philly, home against San Fran, at Chicago, Green Bay, at Detroit, at New England, home against Washington, home against Minnesota, at Vegas, home against the Cowboys. So, again, if that schedule was the one we were just talking about a minute ago, where you could play the Southern divisions and not the North on the other side, I think we're having a different conversation. The other one to me is Zach Taylor. Does a healthy Cincinnati team get back to their best selves this season? Just so many question marks always on their offensive line. They took it personally how bad they were on defense, so they've added a lot to that defense. But that is a really interesting situation, Zach Taylor in Cincinnati. And just the way they kind of they were so banged up last year. He kind of got a mulligan, but at the same time, their window's kind of closing.
It is.
They're paying guys now.
Yeah. And Will, to your point about the window closing, well, they've also took the roof off the house, too, and let everybody see their dirty business.
Right.
This Trey Hendrickson situation has to get figured out because it's messy is what it is, too. And then the issues that they have with the rookies not participating, allegedly, although I think one of them pushed back is like, no, it was a different situation. But they got a lot of to your point, non-football issues that's muddying the waters of what their ultimate goal is, and that's to be very competitive. And considering what they do need defensively, Trey Hendrickson, to me, is a part of that. And Cincinnati, I feel like, is at a point to where they can't really bend the knee to Trey Hendrickson anymore. He had a 20-plus minute just TED talk with people in the media.
Yeah, he did.
Really breaking them down and really exposing them. And that, if they get the deal done, I still think that's bad blood there. I do.
I agree.
I think Trey's a pro. He'll handle it as much as he need to.
Yep.
But it's caused just unnecessary conversation when they should be Joe Burrow-centric moving forward.
615-737-1045. Brian Callahan meeting with the media coming up. We'll hit more headlines with you, including the big story in college athletics today, the SEC and power conferences fight against state laws, including a new one in Tennessee. If you missed that, we'll get you the info on that next. Ramon Will, 104.5 The Zone. We are brewed up by Scooter's Coffee. Visit a locally owned location near you in Rivergate, Smyrna, Brentwood, White House, or Mount Juliet. Stay tuned. In 10 minutes, Brian Callahan meets with the media. We will carry it live for you right here on the show. 615-737-1045. The phone number in the meantime. So if you missed it last night, Ross Dellinger reports that officials from the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, and ACC are drafting a groundbreaking document intended to prevent universities from using their state laws to violate new rules. Big new concept that really essentially is encouraging states like Tennessee to stay out of college sports, to not get involved, and that if you don't agree to this document, then you get kicked out of your conference and power conference teams are not going to play you. Andy Staples talking about this. Andy and Ari on 3. We love those guys. They do a great job covering college football. Andy makes the point that I think Tennessee is trying to spearhead here, as Tennessee once again is on the forefront of changes, Ramon.
Yeah.
Tennessee wants collective bargaining.
Yeah, they do.
That way, Tennessee could sign a player to a deal it could actually enforce. And until we have a collective bargaining agreement between some kind of player association in college sports and the universities and the NCAA, good luck getting any of this to hold up in court when the NCAA is essentially asking you to disobey federal and state law and obey their made-up rules.
Yeah, no, it's not going to. After re-examining it, they have no leg to stand on. They get no seat at the table. The word holds no weight, Will, with this. The concept of it, as we spoke about a little bit earlier, I think makes sense. It's the idea that you want to kind of remove some of the bad apples in this NIL world to where you're governing everybody under one umbrella. That would have been cool 10 years ago.
Right.
You can't do those things now. We see how this operated so far, and the fact that they didn't need a chaperone. Right? Like college football as of late, like it doesn't need guidance. Yeah. But a chaperone to sit on the bus with you? No, absolutely not. Like this is your opportunity to somewhat back out or try to have an understanding with these teams and how they want to go about doing this. They lost that power, Will. That's the way I look at it now. Like, I get it. You want some importance. But this has been long gone from any delegation of power for them at all.
Tennessee Senate Bill 536, which was unearthed last week, paves the way for Tennessee state schools, that's Tennessee, Vandy, Memphis, all of us here in the state, and their affiliated NIL collectives to break House settlement, the settlement that's about to get done that's going to bring revenue sharing into college sports. It allows Tennessee schools to break those rules and prevents college sports' new enforcement entity, the College Sports Commission, from penalizing Tennessee schools. So it prevents any athletic association from adopting and enforcing rules that violate state law. It's going to be a fun fight for lawyers who about to make a lot of money on this.
I mean, they about to get rich. I mean,
they already are. They're about to get richer.
Yeah. Can we go back to school too, Will? Like, do you need somebody to push papers around? Because I know what it could cost. But in general, though, This is just another play, I feel like, by the NCAA to see who they can get on their side. Like, I think in the court of public opinion, there's not much that they can do or say. I don't. To get the fans on their side. And not only just that, but the athletes, too. Like, they want to say, like, it can make Tennessee or Vanderbilt or Memphis, MTSU, be pushed out of leagues. But here's the other side, too. These leagues understand what those games mean. Tennessee, Alabama means something. Can they find a replacement? Yeah, but I think the fans on both sides want that to be real.
Unfortunately, rivalries are no longer a reason for college sports leaders to do anything. Rivalries are ending all around the country.
But that's the reason we're talking about this Notre Dame and USC conversation, too.
And that one's in jeopardy of ending now, too?
But, like, they have no stock in this one moving forward. If you would have told me this is the guidelines they would have played by earlier before we got inside of Pandora's box, it makes sense. But for somebody that's seen it operate just the same without their control, I'm good on them. I am.
The new acronym you're fighting now is just the CSC instead of the NCAA. College Sports Commission. Yeah, right. It's still the same people. It's the same establishment that Tennessee is taking the lead in fighting.
Under new management is what they are at this point.
Good luck enforcing or removing Tennessee and Vanderbilt from the SEC in this process, because that's not going to stand up in court either.
Oh, it's not.
The contractual ability to do that, the Tennessee Attorney General and federal court, like anytime any of these decisions are going to be made on either side, it's just going to get fought in court, and some judge is going to end up making the decision for everybody.
You know how it has more weight than what the CSC is trying to do? I had the governor sign off on this one, basically.
Yeah.
Like, that's where the Vols are in the state of Tennessee with this NIL stuff.
Governor's not even a Tennessee guy.
That's what I'm saying. Like, so, yeah, say that loud again,
Bill
right?
Lee is an Auburn guy.
He's an Auburn guy. But that also should signify what's going to happen in Alabama, too. Like, Tennessee, for whatever reason, it felt like we got to volunteer for everything at this point.
Tennessee has been in the forefront because that's just the way Danny White rolls.
Yeah.
It is.
Is it progressive with this, like the way he's thinking and managing a university? And I asked that question because of the Nike Adidas conversation. We could love him for this, right? But do you also love him if he says this is what's best for the university on the Nike Adidas conference?
Right. Commenter on YouTube says Tennessee has ruined college sports.
Must be a fan of a team that don't have a good NIL.
Must just be a troll that wants his name read on air. No, I mean, Tennessee's not ruined college sports.
Tennessee has ruined college sports. I would. What a concept. So here we go right here. Now, this is where I would push because I know this. I know Jai said. I know he enjoys this. Has Tennessee ruined college sports, or has Tennessee opened the doors for what you believe in as a fan that the players deserve to get? Because I paint the same story, right? That, look, when I have to walk out of the facility and I see this big body Lexus outside that belongs to the coaches, and then I see GM and Ford trucks that they also get that we have no access to, or the fact that on my Christmas break, and that 05 season that Austin Price brought up earlier, I couldn't afford it to go home. I wasn't afforded to go home because I couldn't pay for a simple Greyhound ticket, right? Home. You know who spent Christmas with me in 05? Me. So because of those situations right there, you can say Tennessee's ruined college sports, or the fact that Tennessee's opened the doors for guys like myself and others that had nothing when they left the University of Tennessee. I love UT with everything. You guys know that. It is near and dear to my heart. But to leave that university with no job experience, a degree in sociology that nobody will really hire you unless they know of you, more times than not, I know more guys that have left the University of Tennessee without their degree or go back and get it and still have to work a job that the university promised that you never would have to. Right. That's what Tennessee has helped do, is open up the doors for those types of guys.
Just because Tennessee has taken advantage of the rules or lack of rules does not mean they've ruined anything.
Oh, because
leaders in action have changed college sports. College sports is not ruined.
I've seen guys get injured and careers ended, and they get shipped out.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. At least now they can get them $50,000 in their account before going home.
Coming up, our final break of the morning. We take it now because when we come back, Titans head coach Brian Callahan meets with the media after this. Ramon Will, 104.5 The Zone, wrapping up the show on this Tuesday morning. Right now, we head to Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park, where Titans head coach Brian Callahan meets with the media. And we will await Callahan in just a moment as we effort his audio. No problem at all.
Heck yeah. That's what I'm talking about. We spoke earlier, Will. You asked me what did I want to hear from Callahan. We talked about it a little bit earlier, too. The management of the reps for the 4 quarterbacks, I think, is going to be super important. To see if we can get somewhat of an answer on how he's going to delegate it, because in the springtime, you can go slow and methodical with the process of running plays, but most teams set up their team periods more than anything with about 12 to 15 plays per period. When you go, okay, all right, this is 1st and 10, this is 3rd down, and you move guys in accordingly with 5 reps, or, if it's 3, 5, 5, 5 is the way you do it sometimes. But it's fascinating to see if it was a 15 play, it'd be 8, or was that 8, 4, and 3?
Yeah.
Is the way you can break those plays down. But with the 4th guy, I question how he's going to manage that moving forward.
Yep. I think that is one of the more interesting topics. Brian Callahan saying he's looking forward to starting OTAs next week, seeing guys actually compete within the schemes. Phase 3 starting next week, when you can go actually offense versus defense. And that is what you've missed so far. Let's see if we can get Brian Callahan here from Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park.
The technique of things, but it's just the emphasis of it, making guys aware. At some point, I can take you guys through. Now probably isn't the perfect time for it, but
Still
just how we've set up the offseason program. I think guys have really bought into it. You can maybe ask them a few more questions.
That's when the crazies come out, is next week. It's going to be fascinating, because I think Jeff is still away, too. Will he be in town for OTAs, considering how many changes they've made on the defensive side of the ball, too?
It's a good question.
What? A Instagram post can be weeks old, and you can just be where you want to at that point. Just choose to release it however you want to.
Callahan saying off-season definitely structured much different than last year. How it's set up, competition between players, focusing a lot more on things like penalties, turnovers, and things that win/lose football games. That's from John Glennon just a moment ago, as we still try to get him on here on the radio signal and on Zone TV. And I think it's interesting. Different structure this time around.
Different structure. I wonder, what does that mean? I wonder, will he be a little bit more strict in his approach to coaching the team too? Or is it just more efficiency is what it is?
Sure. So continue to work on him. It looks like the F&M Bank check heard Brian Callahan. The radio audience did not. So that is what we're still working on. If you're watching on Zone TV and you heard Brian Callahan, you were the only ones who did. We did not, and the radio audience did not. So we are working on some technical issues on our side there. Bear with us as we try to get the head coach for you here in just a moment. What were you, Ramon, focused on in Pittsburgh this time of year? What the penalties, turnovers stuff? Was that kind of a main topic of practice, of conversation at this point in the offseason?
No, it wasn't. It was getting the foundation back and understanding the offense for the most part. The problematic stuff that you have is really what you do, one, if you see it become an issue again the next year. But the emphasis and focus on that is mostly done in the individual. And guys somewhat clean that up. Now, again, guys strictly, they'll mess up, dog, during the season or during training camp with some stuff they've never done before. That is normal, but the best way to get the best out of what you're doing is to do it in training camp when it's real, when guys feel pressure of protecting the quarterback because there is no whistle to be blown and stuff like that. So it's a fascinating approach to how you go about correcting last year's mistakes. Is by the meeting room. It is by slowly doing it.
All right, I think we got Brian Callahan.
See what's fixable and what maybe isn't fixable, but you can help with the process of it. So there's no perfect player. They're all going to have things that they got to get better at, and we felt really comfortable with Dan, and he's been fantastic since he's been. So excited to have him.
8 days since you signed him. We're just talking to him for the first time today. That seems kind of like purposeful avoidance for a guy that you're paying $20 million to. What's the rationale for that?
No, he was supposed to speak initially. He was leaving town the same day that he was supposed to come up, so that wasn't intentional by any stretch. There's no intent behind making them available or not making them available. We didn't parade any of our free agents out for press conferences this year. So I would say it's pretty standard operating procedure.
Has done maybe in the early stages of his professional career, and how's Will maybe adjusted to having more competition in the room?
Say that first part one more time.
How you think Cam has handled maybe his first couple of weeks, maybe working with the veterans, and how's Will maybe handled more competition in the room?
They both handled it really well. I've been pleased with their demeanor and their approach. Will's done a really nice job of getting better at things he needed to get better at. I felt really pretty good about his offseason work and how he's come back, bless you. Cam has done a really nice job of integrating himself, and a lot of that is just knowing the play call, being able to spit it out in the huddle, having the tempo, getting familiar with the receivers and what the words mean and how to call it and how your snap count sounds. All of that stuff has been really well done on his part. So they've both done a really nice job getting up to speed where they needed to. You know, both had different things that they're trying to get accomplished, but I'm happy with where that's at.
How do you split their work right now?
Right now, it's all evenly split. You know, we're not competing right now. It'll change probably a little bit when we get to the actual OTAs and we got 7-on-7 and some teamwork and stuff like that. But right now, we're really not going against anybody, so we just roll through it. They're probably roughly about even all the way through, which is pretty standard for this time of year.
Obviously, the offensive line is paramount for you guys after the last couple of years, yours last year specifically. The schedule comes out, and I know you're a long way from playing, but you're playing the team that led the league in sacks last year in the opener. Does that excite you that you're going to know what you got pretty quickly, or you wish you had a little bit of time there?
You know, the focus is so small right now for us. We have so many things that we need to get better at that we focus on. The schedule sort of comes out, and it's a big deal kind of outside in the outside world. And it's not like we didn't know we were going to play these teams. It's just a matter of when you're playing them. Opening in Denver, certainly a challenge. That's a hell of an environment. Was a part of that for a long time. And they got a good football team. So it's a good test out the gate for us. That's a really good defense, very well coordinated, a lot of good talent. So yeah, it's a great challenge for us out the gate. And again, we don't get too far down the road thinking about it, but you know, it's certainly going to be a fun opening environment.
For that game, would Cam going into that need to beat out the other three quarterbacks that are on the roster, or are you kind of in a spot where Cam needs to have maybe just enough of a grip on what's going on in your system to have confidence in him to draw that first start?
Yeah, I think there's so much work to be done between now and then, you know, particularly for him. So many things that you have to learn as a young quarterback. So I don't get too far down that road personally with him. We're focused on the next day really at this point. Trying to get him up to speed as fast as possible and get him ready so he can go compete for a job. And that's ultimately where it all lands right now. So not going to make too many proclamations about September here in May. So feel good about where we're at and the work he's put in, and we'll get there when we get there.
I saw some of the pictures of J.C. Latham. Looks a lot different. What are your thoughts on the body change and everything that he's
he really committed himself to getting his weight at the range that he needed to get it to. You know, he probably admittedly was heavy at the end of last season as the second half of the year wore on. He learned a lot of lessons himself, you know, about what it takes to play tackle in this league, the caliber of players you face every week, and there's no letdown. And I think every rookie goes through that phase where they realize, man, whatever I did before, I got to do it better if I want to have a chance to be the player I think I'm capable of being. And JC's capable of being an excellent football player, and he really dedicated himself to changing his body. Like a lot of first-year players going in their second year find ways to do. He looks great. He's in great shape. He's moving really well. I'm excited about where he's at. But all the credit goes to him and just understanding what he realized it was going to take to be the player that he wants to be, and he dedicated himself to it.
His decision. It wasn't like the result of like the exit meetings last year. It was his decision.
Oh, sure. We had conversations about it. You know, obviously we track these guys' weight every week, and we're aware of where that's at. And one of the things that he was challenged to do was to get himself in a playing weight that's more suitable to play for 17 games at the level that he needs to play at. So, but he dedicated himself to doing it, and he did it. And right now he's in a really good place. So excited about that.
How much has he done while he's been here, and just is the plan to handle him differently this offseason and kind of load management stuff? because of last offseason?
Yeah, I think there's a healthy balance there. He's coming back injury wise, so the rehab process is ongoing. He's in a good spot. Excited about where he's at, but there's definitely a part of like to practice more. I think he's on the same page too, where you got to balance those things. There's a management part for a lot of players, but there's also you got to practice and get better at your craft and continue to improve. So we'll balance that. I feel good about where that process is for us and for him. I think he's well on the same page as well.
Jefferson stats.
I'll come back, Paul. Go ahead, John.
Van Jefferson, I guess, had the one very good year, I guess, back in 2021, and other years not quite as productive. When you look back at what he's done, what did he do particularly well perhaps that year, and do you feel like you can bring that back out?
Yeah, I think Van's been a productive player. He's had some years, like I said, that have been more productive than others. Some of that's just how the team was built around him. I think Puka came in at one point, and then you got Cooper, who became the point for that operation. But he's been a really solid player for every team he's played on, and he's been great so far. He's got some experience in the system and doing some of the things that we do, which is good. He's a pro's pro, obviously coach's son, so knows how to operate. Excited about what he can bring to us. I think he adds depth and competition to the room, which you can't ever have enough of that. But I'm excited to see how he comes out of it. I think he's determined to prove that he wants to show that he's more of what that productive season was than maybe what the last 2 or 3 have been. So you got a motivated player and a serious veteran player that I think is going to help us.
He's recently been among the worst in yards per route run. Is that picking up on what you're saying about the system or?
Yeah, I think those are things for every player that, some fits are better than others, and some of those, they go play places and they end up in a system where maybe it doesn't suit their strengths as well, and they go somewhere else and end up having some production. That's exciting to see. So can't speak to the system necessarily that he was in or played in or the role that he played before, but I just know that he's got a chance to help us, and we're excited to have him.
You talked about speed rehab.
Yeah.
Are you talking knee? Are you talking quad? Are you talking both? And where is he in terms of full participation?
I mean, it's both. I mean, the knee is something that you manage all the time. And then, for the quad injuries, it has taken some time to rehab from. So those things are still kind of ongoing, simultaneously. It's all part of the process for him. But he's in a great place. I'm excited about where he's at. He's progressing as expected.
Camp about 20% of the time you expect your offense to change the play at the line of scrimmage. Do you have any expectation of what that was last year during the season, and is that the same expectation you have this year?
Say that first part one more time. Sorry.
You said last year in camp about 20% of the time you expect the quarterback to change the play at the line. Is that what happened last year? Do you have any?
Yeah, I would say, hard to put it out. I don't know if I have a number for you, but a lot of our offense is kind of built in terms of play calls. We'll call 2 plays most of the time in the huddle. We have a lot of checks that occur, especially on third downs with the protections. So play, protection, it all kind of fits in the same mold. Didn't do probably as much at the line of scrimmage as I would have wanted to for a lot of different reasons. It's something I'd like to do more of. We still invest in it. We still work on it. And those are things that you got to earn offensively. It's a way that's enjoyable to play football. I think when you're good at it, it can be a weapon for you. But there's 11 pieces that got to fit into that too, and how that fits in with the rest of it. So things we're working on, things I like a lot. I've been a part of no huddle systems a lot in my time. I've been a part of kind of quarterback at the line of scrimmage driven. But you got to earn that. You got to be able to operate that the right way. And then everybody else has to be able to operate it too. So it's a totality thing offensively, but it's certainly something that we're gonna keep diving into and keep trying to push the envelope on and hopefully do more of.
With Pollard today, as you reflected on his first year here, anything you want to change with him as far as workload and as far as how many carries he has? Does that pretty much depend on his health or other factors?
Yeah, I think he's battling the second half of the year quite a bit, but I think in a perfect world, it's a healthier division of labor. I think he ended up carrying the ball a lot. He was our most productive running back, and then Tajay had some injuries early too, so he ended up playing a lot early, and then Tajay sort of came on as the year went on further. So I like really both of those players a lot. I think we can do a better job of managing that load so they both play a little more evenly and allows us to maybe have a spot for a third back between Julius and Khalil, some heavier style back and runner. So hopefully that division of labor gets a little more evenly distributed so he doesn't have to take the brunt of it, and we can get 17 games out of all those guys at their best.
To what degree can you see leadership emerge in what you're doing now, and to what degree do you have to wait until more serious in the long term?
That's a good question. It's something that we've really put a lot of work into. What I mean by that is it's an emphasis for us as well. Just like we emphasize trying to eliminate those negative plays and our execution, there is a leadership emphasis. And part of the reason I did what I did with our dividing our team up into teams is now they're all accountable to each other on that team. There's a leadership that starts to grow because now each team has a captain and an alternate, and now you've got more people in leadership spots. One of the things I think is unique about the process is it allows those guys to start to find their own voices, and it's not about an offense versus defense. It's much more of a holistic team approach to it. We encourage these guys to spend a lot more time together, both in the building and out of it. It's been a focus for us, and I think you can develop leadership. I don't think leaders are necessarily just walk into a room ready to lead. I think there's skills you have to learn. You have to have the communication as a leader. You have to know your teammates. We spend a lot more time trying to get to know each other on a level that I think is going to be beneficial to fostering more leadership from more people. One of the things I tell our team all the time that I think is really important is a lot of times you ask people, how do you lead? And most people say, I lead by example. And my retort to that is there's really no such thing in pro sports. Leading by example is the expectation. That's your job, to be on time, to do what you're supposed to do, to work hard, to study. That's part of that's in your contract, And so my challenge to our team this year was to do more of the things that require bringing people with you, making other people better. And so leadership is something that we talk a lot about. It's a focal point of our offseason, and the idea is that you develop a team full of leaders, and everyone has different styles. But it's something that I think the more people you have that are comfortable in those roles and understand that it's more about how you interact with people and how you make people around you better, that part of it I think is something I'm excited about. So.
And how do you keep it going that way when you turn to offense, defense, man?
For what? One more time?
The four teams.
There's 8 teams.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, 8 of them.
And do you keep that going when you turn into offense, defense?
Yeah, it's all. They're still also. The cool part about it is, you can earn points a lot of different ways. For example, let's say defensively, Amani Hooker has an interception. That's a 3-point swing for his team. But on his team is also the quarterback. And the quarterback threw the interception, so that's a minus 3-point swing. So really, he's a net zero for his team for that particular play. But what it does is you see more communication, more conversation, more accountability to other folks around the team, and they get to know each other on a different level than maybe just offense and defense. That's one of the things I think we need to do a better job of, is just the whole team interacting more. Not just by position or by side of the ball. And I think so far it's been a lot of fun. I think the guys have enjoyed it, and I think it's also grown those leadership qualities, those accountability to each other, as opposed to just trying to be the best offense or the best defense that day. Thank you.
That is Tennessee Titans head coach Brian Callahan meeting with the media. Ramon, we've got maybe 30 seconds before we got to get out of here. What's it out to you?
The last part, that team approach to challenging one another. I told you on the break, man, I know we're going to talk about it probably a little bit more tomorrow. Yep. But the way they're setting stuff up makes it seem, now I ain't in their locker room or nothing, but it makes it seem like they were very fractured as a locker room.
Feels that way. The J.C. Latham note on him changing his body and taking things that did not work last year and making some adjustments. Very intriguing as well. Mm-hmm. We will react to all that tomorrow morning with you, and we'll have Rep Brian as well at 9 a.m. tomorrow. The Buck Rising Show with Lucas Panzica and Robert Walsh. They are at the controls after this.
Hey now, good people, you must remember at all times, man, your Twitter fingers and your mic is always hot.